All right, good evening, everyone. I welcome you all to this meeting of the Cardinia Shire Council and declare the meeting open at 7 p.m. This meeting will be conducted in accordance with Council's governance rules. It's important that members of the public present in the gallery respect the setting and do not disrupt the meeting, particularly during debate and discussion by councillors on items in the agenda. We're going to commence this meeting with the following reflection. I would ask those gathered to join us now for a few moments of silence as we reflect on our roles in this chamber. Please use this opportunity for reflection, prayer or thought to focus on our shared intention to work respectfully together for the well-being of our whole community. Thank you, everyone. Cardinia Shire Council respectfully acknowledges that we are on the traditional lands of the Bunurong and Wurundjeri people, and we pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. There are no apologies for tonight's meeting. Moving into adoption and confirmation of minutes, can I please have a mover and seconder for the following? 1, special council meeting on the 8th of September 25, 2, council meeting on the 15th of September 2025, and 3, the Town Planning Committee meeting on the 6th of October 2025. Moved by Councillor Pomeroy, seconded by Councillor Thompson. All those in favour? Declare that carried. We'll go into declarations of interest. Councillors, are there any conflicts or declarations of interest in relation to tonight's agenda? Councillor Nicol.
Thanks, Mayor. Yes, 7.2.9, road discontinuance and sale at Trythall Street, Beaconsfield.
Thank you. And what's the nature of their conflict?
Employment.
Thank you. All right, we'll note that in the minutes. Thank you. Let's go to community questions. Agenda item number 6. Stephanie Davies submitted questions which were ruled out in accordance with 3.512 of the governance rules. Mark Teague submitted 4 questions. Is Mark in the gallery? We note that he is. These are going to be read and answered by the General Manager of Community and Planning Services, Debbie Tyson. Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, and thank you for your question, Mr Teague. Question 1, can Cardinia Shire Council please provide proof of the alleged resident's complaint against the basketball hoop in front of your address? In response, thank you for that question, and I note that information has been forwarded to yourself earlier today. Question 2, after an officer assessed the basketball hoop at the address, was there an official assessment completed? If so, can Cardinia Shire Council please provide this report? In response, Council does not permit the permanent storage of personal items on public land, and therefore a full assessment report was not required. Question 3, can the Council explain why they feel it's more important to remove a safe, well-loved and used piece of sporting equipment for my son and other kids to use that has been in this location for over 8 years and not focus on far more pressing matters in the local community? In response, Council acknowledges that there are many pressing matters within the community and works hard to address a wide range of issues. However, we also have a duty to respond to all matters brought to our attention, including those involving the use of public land and community safety. To meet the local law requirements and public safety obligation, the basketball hoop needs to be relocated onto private property. Question 4. What is the Council prepared to do in the spirit of fairness and common sense to make an allowance to keep the basketball hoop in its original location? And in response, Council must apply local laws consistently across the municipality to ensure safety, fairness and uphold community standards. Once a breach is identified, we are required to respond, regardless of how long the item has been in place. Thank you for your questions. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Debbie. Kurt Peterson submitted a question. Is Kurt in the gallery? I don't believe he is. We'll provide a written response to Kurt. Trevor James submitted questions. Is Trevor in the gallery? We note that he is. Thank you. These are going to be read and answered by the General Manager of Infrastructure and Environment.
Through you, Mayor, and thank you for your questions, Mr James. Question 1, at the September 2025 meeting, Council advised that it has undertaken a process review in relation to the works and public lighting replacement. What was the process and how has the result been achieved? And if not, when can that result be expected? The response is, Council since this time has engaged and worked with AusNet Services, undertaken community information sessions to discuss replacement projects. A process review has been completed with some outcomes including contractor documentation updates and officer education. Council has worked with AusNet to have the retrofit LED globes approved and is hoping that'll occur by the end of April. Question 2. In regards to the removal of the much-loved Heritage Springs street lights and subsequent crushing and recycling of the lights, Council advised that AusNet are instigating a retrofit globe. What progress has been made? The response? AusNet Services are involved in the electricity distribution price review process, which is led by the Australian Energy Regulator. Council expects that AusNet Services will advise of the outcomes of this review by the end of April 2026. Question 3. Why is it that the Heritage Springs resident group is receiving information from AusNet which is entirely different from Council advice? The response? Council is not aware of the information being provided by AusNet Services regarding Heritage Springs lighting, which differs to that provided by Council. We would welcome information from the community on this matter.
Thank you. Is that it from them?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
William Ronald submitted 3 questions. Is Bill in the gallery? We note that he is. These will be read and answered by Peter Benedict.
Through you, Mayor. Thank you for your questions, Mr. Ronald. Question 1. 4th June 2024, AusNet contractors removing Heritage Spring lights was reported to the Mayor, Jack Kowazik. What action did the Mayor take then and now 28 months later? Response. Following this report, Notice of Motion 1096 was passed at the Council meeting on 17th of June 2024. The Notice of Motion placed the removal of Heritage Street lighting fittings in Heritage Springs on hold. Council since that time has engaged and worked with AusNet Services, undertaking community information sessions to discuss replacement projects and seek solutions. Question 2. At the Council meeting, 17th of June 2024, Notice of Motion 1096 was carried unanimously. When exactly, date required, did Cardinia Council advise AusNet of this resolution? Response. Council passed the Notice of Motion 1096 related to the halting replacement works coordinated by Council with AusNet approval. AusNet was contacted following the decision on the following day. Council has continued liaison with the AusNet on this issue. Question 3. In August 2025, AusNet installed new street lights at Heritage Livingston Boulevard. There was no requirement under AS 1158 to remove the adjacent Heritage Street lights, which reduced the safety of the location. Why did AusNet remove the original lights? Response. The intersection of Livingston Boulevard and Heritage Boulevard was identified as a black spot under the federal government program as a high-risk area. The area required safety upgrades, including lighting. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next set of questions is from Hank Heremans. Is Hank in the gallery? Yep. G'day, Hank. We note that he is. These will be read and answered by Peter Benedict.
Thank you, Mr. Herreman, for your questions, and through you, Mayor. Question 1. Can Council provide documentation evidence that AusNet is actively seeking a retrofit globe for the Heritage Springs street lamps? The response. The Australian Energy Regulator publicly available draft decision AusNet Services Electricity Distribution Determination 1 July 26 to 30 June 2031 confirms that the use of these globes is being sought by AusNet. Question 2. Is Council fully aware that Melbourne Aluminium and Iron Lacework Company have available to Council and estate developers Australia-wide a wide range of Heritage Springs period Victorian style street lamps, complete with LED globes, all of course for sale in Australia? The response: Council is required to utilise AusNet Services approved lighting hardware when replacing and installing lights on the AusNet service light network. We are not aware that these lights have been approved by AusNet Services. Question 3. Will Cardinia Council make themselves fully aware of the true facts on lamps and globes well in advance of the lead up to the April 26 Council report? Response: Council will consider the information available via AusNet Services as the network authority. Question 4. Why is it that Melbourne City and all upmarket surrounding suburbs have retained all their heritage street lamps? The response: street lights in the City of Melbourne are not owned or managed by the distribution network service provider, therefore not governed by the same restrictions that the lights in Cardinia Shire are. Thank you for your questions.
Thank you, Peter. That's the end of question time. We thank the community for them. Let's go into ordinary business. I'm just going to call you to order, Mr. Ronald. All right. Mr. Ronald, we're just going to call you to order then. All right, councillors, we'll just pause for a minute. Thanks, Mr. Ronald. We don't recognise you, Mr. Ronald. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Bill. Bill, I've called you to order. I'm going to ask you to leave the meeting. I'm going to ask you to leave the meeting. It's highly inappropriate. It's highly inappropriate for you to be standing up in a council meeting and be yelling at everyone. Thanks, Bill. I'm going to ask you to leave the meeting. You've been asked to leave the meeting. Highly inappropriate. You've been asked to leave the meeting. And I'm happy to look into it, but it's inappropriate what you're doing. It's inappropriate. I've asked you to leave the meeting. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Bill. That's enough. Do you want to go? Are you finished or are we going to adjourn the meeting? Okay, thanks. All right, councillors, let's go on to ordinary business. Settle down. Right, we're just waiting on one more and we'll get started again. All right, we're all back on deck and we'll get started again. And I apologise to those people in the gallery for what was very disrespectful outburst by that resident. But anyway. We will move on to ordinary business, agenda item 7.2.1, which is the council plan for 2025 to 29. The recommendation here is that Council 1 adopts the Council Plan 25 to 29 in accordance with the requirements of Section 90 of the Local Government Act 2020. And 2, acknowledges and thanks the 2025 Future Cardinia Community Panel and all other submitters throughout 2025 for their contributions and comments that have helped to shape the Council Plan and other key strategic documents. Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Pomeroy.
I'd like to move the recommendation as noted.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Potter. Over to you, Councillor Pomeroy.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's a massive involvement across the community. There have been many who have debated and deliberated on what should and shouldn't be involved in this plan. And I'm really excited and grateful tonight to see this one move forward through for adoption. We do have 3 families moving in each day, and over the next decade, we'll welcome an additional 40,000 people. So this plan is critically important as we not only prepare for the future growth, but also to ensure the livability of all our towns. The highlights that I'm really excited about are the development of an unsealed roads improvement plan, drainage improvement plan from year 2, review of the pedestrian and bicycle strategy, including considering how we link the railway towns, an opportunity to review the Cardinia Shire planning scheme. And then there's elements such as the feasibility of golf at the Deep Creek Reserve and advocacy as we lead into the state election on the South East Melbourne Airport and Thompsons Road. I think this is a power of work and I look forward to seeing us deliver it over the rest of our term.
Thank you, Councillor Pomeroy. Over to you, Councillor Potter.
I am proud of our council plan. We have all certainly worked really hard with the community in many meetings and groups and community engagement opportunities to make it a true reflection of us all. And I want to say thank you to the council staff and everyone in the community, the deliberative panel, and to my fellow councillors who all shared their thoughts to co-create this extraordinary document. Obviously, there's a few things I want to highlight. As Officer Ward Councillor, I need to highlight, if you look to number 2, vibrant places, I advocated strongly to ensure some of these are included, such as the important 2.4 about road advocacy, along with point 2.22, officer township activation, where we will work with government, development agencies and landowners to progress the officer town centre. And also item 2.21, a plan for activation of the officer town centre with an officer library and community facilities. Very exciting. There's so many points, but I'll leave it to the rest of my team. There is just one more thing I would like to highlight about anyone who is concerned. I want to speak to and reassure anyone who's concerned about the removal of the line creativity and expression are at the heart of what we do from the community vision. The 2025 community panel was empowered by council to revise the community vision, and they chose to remove this line, and we supported their choice. But it's important to acknowledge that the council itself is not limited to the wording chosen by the panel. I want to reassure the community that the spirit of creativity and expression is very valued within our council. If you look at the Thriving Community section of the plan, the first point 1.1 is community culture and identity, that we enrich local identity and foster opportunities for the community to make meaningful connections through creative arts, events and cultural expression. There's many more points throughout the report, and also you can see just in our day-to-day lives. I'm on the arts and culture reference group, for example, and I think genuinely everyone in the council pride themselves on being innovative and creative thinkers. And personally, I'm committed to ensuring creativity and expression is encouraged and supported in our Shire. Thank you once again to everyone who took the time to contribute. As a community, this is an extraordinary document, as I said. It is something to be proud of, and all the points within it mean something and are integral parts of the whole that make up our Cardinia Shire's future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Potter. Would any other councillor? Councillor Roberts, over to you.
Through you, Mayor. I particularly want to reflect on some of the individual feedback that we received in the last part of the consultation on some of the initiatives. I particularly want to mention the Service Attraction Initiative, which is 4.10, and a number of community members highlighted the need for a TAFE or university located in the Shire. And in discussion with officers, we added further education to that service attraction list in that particular initiative. This is really important given that in Cardinia Shire, high school completion rate is 52% compared to 64% for the Melbourne average. And this is a significant gap. This service attraction gap analysis that Council will undertake will enable us to see where there are opportunities for us to potentially attract trainers and educators in those skill areas, and will give Council the create the advocacy information that we need to potentially attract a post-high school training to the Shire. Another organisation that responded to the consultation was Monash Health. They noted in their submission that the initiative 2.14, which is the review of the bicycle and pedestrian strategy. This is a particular initiative that's close to my heart, given I introduced a notice of motion for this work, for this strategy to be reviewed earlier this year. I encourage Monash Health to participate in the community engagement that will be done on the strategy. A third community member highlighted the need for community infrastructure to be monitored, and this is also in the plan as 2.24. We will undertake a facility utilisation census to ensure the facilities are being used and develop a strategy to maximise community benefit. So thank you to all those who have, there's more people who've contributed their input, and it's just wanted to share how some of that input has been taken into the plan. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Roberts. Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Mayor. I just also want to thank everyone involved in the creation of this council plan. I wanted to focus on the actions in vibrant places. Roads clearly is the most significant issue in Cardinia Shire, and our recent community satisfaction, resident satisfaction results clearly identify this as a #1 issue for Cardinia. More than 3 times the metro average, particularly significant in the hills and rural precincts, and significant negative influence on satisfaction. So #1 issue in our survey. So I'm really pleased that this plan really focuses on these areas. Unsealed roads, develop an unsealed road improvement plan to improve the maintenance of unsealed roads and improve resident experience. That's one action. Another action is the drainage strategy. Develop a drainage improvement plan to improve the operation and maintenance of our drainage networks and implement the adopted plan. An active transport recreation paths, review the pedestrian bicycle strategy, as Councillor Roberts said earlier, very important. It's a great strategy. One of them is the Aqueduct Trail. which is very close to the urban growth corridor, has some very positive benefits, but it's got some missing links. So I'm really keen for that to be investigated in the future as part of this plan. Cardinia Life, very important. It is the #1 recreation facility in our Shire. We know it's at capacity, so continue to advocate for further funding to expand and redevelop Cardinia Life. So that is just some action items in the plan. I look forward as a council over the next 3 and a bit years to deliver what's in this plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Payton.
Thank you, Mayor. Local government has clear statutory obligations and we need to prioritise these before pursuing broader agendas. In the plan, there's a strong commitment, as Councillor Owen just said, strong commitment to core infrastructure. A drainage improvement plan and the unsealed road strategy aims to maximise the return on investment by tackling hotspots and saving costs of ineffective band-aid maintenance. I commend our engineers for their long-term thinking and leadership in this area. But this council needs to change budget priorities to better support this vital work. Otherwise, we're all behind the 8 ball. Our communities are at risk on the road and properties are at risk of inundation. And it costs ratepayers and council more in the long term. The rating and strategy review is vital to ensure that the rates burden is shared more fairly amongst the various categories of landowners. Thanks to our capable finance team for steering this work. In November this year, there'll be an invitation going out to the public to join a panel of up to 30 members, community members, to review council's rating strategy. And the panel will meet twice in February 26 before a report of outcomes returns to us in the chamber. Protecting agricultural land is another initiative in this council plan. Preserving Cardinia's green wedge land is a priority for this council, and the plan includes initiatives to improve the planning schemes to better protect the land and the rights of farmers and to promote agricultural productivity. I'm concerned that such a meagre and tokenistic budget of just $20,000 has been allocated to prepare the food and agricultural strategy, and this is not even equivalent to one farmer's rates contribution. So I'd like that to be revised, but that's another matter. I do have concern about one initiative that's in the council plan. I'm really worried about the plan's initiative of an investment and advisory committee. It's in the plan because some councillors think it's a measure to save us from financial ruin. It poses risk and conflict of interest that are potentially highly damaging. The only effective and sustainable way to tackle debt is to change spending, not income. There's been significant effort behind this plan from the community panel, officers and councillors, and I thank everybody involved. However, I foresee that in 4 years' time, the next council will be grappling with the same issues as we are now. Without a fundamental shift in spending priorities, this plan won't address our debt situation, it won't relieve residents of the rates burden or deliver lasting change. So I can't support the plan in its current form. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank the staff for the hard work they've put in and the consultants we had to help us with this amazing document. I must say it's really pivotal to this council as a group, because what it does is encapsulates the priorities and direction of the group heading into our second year. It has to be done, but it can be done in such a way that, as it has been, that we as a council show what we're really about. It really shows the underbelly of who we are as a group, and it has built into it all the passions and the core things that we brought to council when we first came. We were all elected for different things, and this council plan hopefully reflects those things. And I think everybody's put in a really big effort to make it their own council plan for this 4-year term. So I thank everyone. I think you've done a great job. There's two things I would like to really highlight is the gender impact assessments that will be done. When I first got on council, I was part of an all-male council, and Councillor Owen and I became the women's delegates on council. It was a bit interesting going to different events on a gender basis, considering we were both males. Mind you, we just didn't have any females on council. I actually saw it as a real privilege to go and represent the 52% of the community out there who are women. And I must say, for most part, probably the most conscientious and hardworking and detailed people in our community who really work hard to achieve anything they do. And in our council plan, we've got 4 recommendations that are fundamentally staged in a package that builds systems, culture, capability required for equitable asset planning and compliance for the Gender Equity Act 220. This approach ensures the equity is not an add-on, but it's part of council's core business. In year 1, we'll have a short-term goal in our first year is to establish a visible foundation by including an explicit and organisational wide statement of commitment to intersectional gender equality within the council plan and leadership messages. That's our first recommendation. The second one is short-term, 1 to 2 years, build capacity and strengthening inclusive engagement, ensuring underrepresented voices and gender disengaged data informing planning and monitoring. That's our second recommendation. Our third one is medium, 2 to 3 years, consolidate accountability systems with disaggregated monitoring and reporting, making inequities visible and traceable over time. That's the third one. And the fourth one for 2 to 4 years is embedding the gender impact statement into business as usual processes, supported by governance, capability building and leadership accountability structures. That's the fourth one.
Councillor Ross, sorry, that's well over 3 minutes.
Could I ask for just an extension, please, Mayor?
Just 30 seconds. Is there a seconder for that? Yep. All right. Please be brief.
The only other thing I'd like to add is volunteerism that for the very first time has entered our council plan. It's a really, really important thing in the community. We have the Stan Henwood Awards every year. We're looking at proposing a strategy for volunteerism, which might contain things like training, mentoring, retaining people, and being able to help growing clubs and not-for-profits and their events. I think that's really, really important that we retain those volunteers and help
Thank you,
people.
Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor.
Are there any other speakers to this item? There being none, I'll go back to you, Councillor Pomeroy.
Thank you, Mayor. It's great to also see that work has already commenced on this plan. We haven't waited until October to start our planning, and I really appreciate that. We've had plenty of briefings and we are moving forward on a number of these measures. Throughout the plan, there are strategic indicators. We know what we're trying to measure, and I look forward to having to potentially revise the plan if we aren't meeting those. This will drive our staff work, and I would like to commend everyone in this room that has got to hear. I know there's obviously contentious things about what got in and what didn't get in, and I appreciate your views, Councillor Payton, and the opportunity each year to review those in line with our budgets. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll put the officer recommendation to 7.2.1 up for a vote, the adoption of our council plan. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. 7.2.2, the recommendation here is that Council 1 notes the changes recommended to the Liveability Plan 2017 to 2029 as described in Table 1 of the report. 2, endorses the 2025 review of the Liveability Plan 2017 to 29. 3, publishes the 25 review of the Liveability Plan 17 to 29 on our website. And 4, writes to the Secretary of the Department of Health providing a copy of the endorsed Liveability Plan 2017 to 29. Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Potter?
I'm happy to move this motion as is written. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Ross, over to you, Councillor Potter.
The Liveability Plan is Cardinia Shire's municipal public health and wellbeing plan, which must be reviewed every 4 years in line with Council's responsibility under the Public Health and Wellbeing Act 2008, and to ensure consistency with the Council Plan 2529, Section 26(2)(e), and the Victorian Public Health and Wellbeing Plan 2327, Section 26(3). It must then be submitted to the Department of Health by the 31st of October, which is the legislative deadline. Thank you to all the community once again, and council staff and my fellow councillors who contributed to this awesome review. Public exhibition of the draft document was July to August 25, and the report was updated via the online forum Creating Cardinia, where we heard from residents, local students, businesses and workers. Feedback was also received in verbal and written forms from organisational stakeholders and councillors, with an estimated reach of approximately 25,000 people, as outlined clearly in Table 2 in the report. In addition to community feedback, the draft plan was further refined to incorporate emerging public health data, recent policy developments, strategic alignment with Council Plan 2529, and enhancements to language for improved clarity and accessibility. The policy implications of the plan are stated in the report. The updated plan positions Council strongly for partnerships, advocacy and strategic planning to be delivered under its health planning functions, enabling Council to leverage partnerships with the public health workforce and investments from other levels of government. Such a lot of work has gone into this amazing document, and it is a reflection of who we are, have been, and where we are going. I find it inspiring, even though some of the data is a little confronting and hard to face. It shows us exactly what's important and what we as a council need to focus on to improve. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Potter, for withdrawing this item. This really brings the council plan to life. That's what it's about. It affects people in person, affects your health and everything to do with that. When you have a look through it, I won't go through too much, but we've got statements of commitment to reconciliation, statements of inclusion, we've got acknowledgements there, and in one line, the long-term vision can really be poured out in one sentence. Cardinia Shire is a livable, resilient community where the environment flourishes and residents are healthy, included and connected. I think that just about says it all. If you go through, there is a whole lot of reading in there. It covers so many areas of people's lives that we would like to believe on council that we can enhance people's lives and help them where they're up to within reason. So anyway, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to this? I see you, Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I once again want to highlight a couple of the recommendations for update in the report, which have been influenced by the community providing feedback. Prior to the last round of consultation for outcome 7, vaping was added into the statement, reduce harm from alcohol, vaping, tobacco, vaping, alcohol, drugs and gambling. Vaping is becoming a lot more prevalent in our community, and it's important this has been added in to the plan given its health impacts. This recommendation 6 also has added an additional objective to address the stigma around people seeking help for issues relating to these harms, which was a suggestion from the community. Recommendation 10 for the changes in this consultation period included a suggestion from the community to focus on wood and smoke and air pollution. This led to a reference being made now in the plan to the Victorian Air Quality Strategy. And another focus of the Liveability Plan is the Liveability domain education. There was feedback that there was a need to focus on technical knowledge for kids and that job creation for new local migrants with higher education need to be addressed. This has been addressed through the community statements where we have added a focus on student placements and also on addressing the barriers to employment for migrants and refugees. So it's really important that when we receive feedback from the community, we find ways to include it and make the document living for our community and for their needs. So I'm grateful that when the officers in preparing the report match and find ways to include the community feedback and roll it into the plan. I also want to acknowledge the work that the officers did on improving the indicators and data in this report following feedback from councillors early on in the process. I feel that the data and the indicators are now more robust. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to this item? Councillor Payton.
Thanks, Mayor. The Liveability Plan is a significant document and it's important. It shapes the decisions our officers make and guides their weekly actions. That's why it's critical that we get it right, and I just don't think that we have. I respect the intent and the hard work of our officers, but my view differs from many in this chamber. The vision, as Councillor Ross pointed out, is of a livable, resilient community where the environment flourishes and residents are healthy, included and connected. That's a noble vision and I think it's great. But the reality that we're seeing today is, as demonstrated by the Liveability Index and the data collection, tells a very different story. Isolation, more homeless, higher incidence of poor mental health and suicides, poor infrastructure in rural towns, neglected public halls and a limited support for cultural and artistic expression. Most residents leave the Shire to work or for further study, which affects families, local businesses and community cohesion. The issue isn't the vision, it's the assumption that council should be leading it. Instead, we should be championing the change from the ground up from our communities, not from the top down. The plan is full of promises about what council will do rather than how we'll empower community to do it for themselves. That's a fundamental difference, and for me, that's the essence of the problem. I challenge us to go beyond consultation. We need to sit with our community groups, not just visit, but stay. Understand their goals, their barriers, and what support they actually need. Let them build the vision for their own unique community. Until we start with a clear understanding of customer need, backed by consistent data, we risk investing in initiatives that sound good but miss the mark. I think improvements in our communication and in our community engagement practice are essential to support this plan going forward. True resilience comes from removing barriers, not just creating more programs. Let's shift from the top-down planning to the bottom-up empowerment. That's how we will build a truly livable Cardinia. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers for this item? Councillor Owen.
Thanks, Mayor, and I thank everyone who contributed to this renewal of this strategy. I just want to highlight what I found interesting in whether it was the community engagement or recent surveys is people's perception of safety. I've got real concerns about safety in our community. The report says feeling unsafe at night in the public areas in the Shire increased from 11% in 2024 to 19% in 2025. That's almost doubling in a year period. Feeling unsafe was more common among females and adults aged 45 to 54 years of age. The most common safety concerns related to crime and policing, concerns around various groups of people and specific instances of knowledge or break-ins. So there were 8 to 19 criminal instances per day in the year from March 2025, a 32% increase in 2024, most of which were theft or breaches of family violence. But once again, a 32% increase in basically a year. So that is concerning. And I appreciate our residents have that concern. And I appreciate council has a role in this space, obviously not the be or end all, obviously other government departments, but this is a real issue for our community. And this document does highlight that. Obviously, we've got actions as part of that. We've got policies in place, but I just wanted to highlight that. That was something that I got from this review. It is a good document. It does help council, through our wellbeing support grants. There is a criteria that we encourage groups who are applying that they they meet or they try to achieve what's in the livability plan. So that helps council in achieving what we want in this plan. It also helps community groups when they're looking at what their priorities are. I know community groups does look at council's livability plan, and it helps guide them in whether it's accessing grants or just really working out their priorities. So I think it is a really good document. I'm really pleased with it, and I'm happy to support. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to this item? I'll go back to you, Councillor Potter, to sum up.
No worries. I see this report is a reflecting of who we are, like a snapshot of time. It's not just numbers on a page. It represents real people, our people, Cardinia. This document has soul. This gives us a roadmap and a guide to where we need to put our attention and champion change. I take what Councillor Payton has said and embrace it. Professionally, you might know I'm from the social support services, and I'm all for empowering an adaptive support perspective where we empower community to lead the way. There is encouraging data, such as on page 37 in the plan, where it says the top 5 industries by employment are construction, education, training, retail, healthcare, and social assistance and manufacturing, and that there were 11,937 local businesses in 24 and a 6% increase from 23. I look forward to next year's data report. I'm sure it's growing. And then, yes, there is challenging data that's very hard to read, like on page 29, where it says that discrimination is defined as being treated badly or unfairly because of a personal characteristic protected under the Victorian Opportunity Act. Experiences of discrimination are associated with the increase of a variety of different health disorders, including cardiovascular disease and cancer. In Cardinia, in 23, discrimination was experienced by 31% of those who speak a language other than English due to their cultural background, versus 2% for people who speak English. The statistics are all there, and they're a bit confronting. It might be challenging to hear, but it is also a shared challenge for us all to bridge our perceptions, to see one another more clearly, and to come together as one Cardinia. When we celebrate each other and connect through our shared humanity, we honour the many cultures, backgrounds and stories that shape the vibrant community we call Cardinia. This report challenges us all to be our best selves. The data doesn't lie, but it outlines a path that we can choose to take as a community towards health, wellness, inclusion, and living a fantastic life in Cardinia together. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll put the officer recommendation to 7.2.2 up for a vote. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. 7.2.3, the 25 to 35 financial plan. The recommendation is that Council adopts the 25 to 35 financial plan in accordance with the requirements of Section 91 of the Local Government Act 2020. Do I have a mover for this item? I see Councillor Pomeroy.
I'd like to move the motion as written.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Ross, over to you, Councillor Pomeroy.
Thank you. This is a really important report, and the following statements are included: a comprehensive income statement, balance sheet, statement of changes in equity, statement of cash flows, statement of capital works, and statement of human resources. And I do especially thank the finance team for the amount of modelling they did in the lead-in to the finalisation of these reports as well. There's some important things to note in terms of we are still growing, so there is some continued maturity of strategic asset management and capital delivery, and understanding where our renewal gaps are and also where our priorities are. And I think this is a real focus for this council. And it's pleasing to see the work being done in this space. We will continue to review all our key services to ensure the community is receiving value for money. We will consider borrowings for our capital works program, and a borrowing policy has been drafted. Some of the concerning things that are sector-wide are our waste charges will be up 16.5%. And you can see in future years they'll increase by 10% before then moving to 5%. This is a real challenge, but it is sector-wide, and we continue to see where we can improve along this. And I would like to note that our employee numbers are not expected to increase over the life of the plan, but as I noted in an earlier report, that our population will grow incredibly in that time. So it will really challenge us as an organisation how to do things differently. So yeah, I will be recommending this report.
Thank you. Councillor Ross. I do that at the front as the chair of the meetings. You're 4 seconds in, you better get going.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I mean, a 10-year financial plan is an amazing document. We can only look at it as this point in time, and we guesstimate what's going to happen in future. And it's really a difficult document to we don't have a crystal ball. Who would have thought 10 years ago when they looked at the 10-year council plan, you'd have something like COVID come in and disrupt the whole of communities round the world, including their budgets and how we plan in future. I must say, in the next 10 years, this is going to be the most challenging period for Cardinia Shire Council. Sustainability will be number one, about building our infrastructure and services to support the community. Challenges like rate capping, a contained income increase, with lack of future funds coming from state and federal governments, with our state government saying that at this stage they're not going to give us growing suburbs funds that we needed in the past with rate capping. It's going to make it extremely hard for people for councils to just upkeep the infrastructure. When you realise what the rate cap's based upon, it's based upon the normal CPI, large screen TVs, bananas, baskets of goodies. Councils rates go up much. Their CPI is much different to that. We have road-based costs that we have to buy. We have the price of fuel. We have to maintain ageing infrastructure. We've got to build new infrastructure. There's more services coming online all the time that weren't existing 10 years ago that do exist now to support the community. We also have the challenge of precinct structure plans, which were designed at a moment in time, and the dollars and cents at the start of them created a gap that council had to fill the gap. Well, those dollars were worked out then. You go 20 years down the track, everything's increased and the gap gets bigger and bigger. Councils can only do what we can afford to do, and ratepayers can only afford what they can afford. I must say, I believe this new council that we have here today brings a lot of fresh ideas. We're going to take up the challenge. We want to see if we can turn things around and make sure that we are sustainable. A lot of councils who choose not to change, to do the things the same way, will finish up with huge debts and won't be able to afford to do very much at all. I believe we are agile. I believe we will look at this future plan, and we're going to put things in place to try and make some changes so we will be sustainable. Things that are amazing challenges for Cardinia Shire are things like the immigration into Australia by federal governments. We are the ones who, at the end of the day, house people. This is where they come to live for affordable housing, and it's something that we get given. We're an affordable place to live. It is a really big challenge we have, and we're going to need some help in these areas, or we just won't be able to deliver all the things we would love to deliver. Anyway, there's the challenge. I believe we're up to it, and I look forward to seeing what we can do in this space in the next 4 years, or next 3.5 years. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Ross. Are there any other speakers to this item? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to other councillors who have spoken to this so far. I agree that the 10-year plans, it's an interesting one, obviously 12 months into the job, figuring all this stuff out, getting your head around it, seeing where we are and seeing where we're heading. But I do believe that this council is financially sustainable, and we are heading in that direction where that is our number one priority. A couple of things that I would like to just quickly pull out. Under 3.7, the strategic actions of financial sustainability, the asset management, service levels and borrowings are a really good read on actions that we are taking as a council. But what I really want to pull apart just really quickly is 3.6, financial sustainability strategy. The report talks that the sound long-term financial management is critical to providing the financial certainty and flexibility needed for efficient and effective service delivery and asset management. It talks to while us being currently financially sound as demonstrated in the indicators, but there is also a continued focus on being as efficient as we can. And that's just to keep managing that underlying result that is the weakest of the VARGO indicators as noted in the plan. But what I really want to highlight, and I think it's where we as a council have the biggest challenge, is the fourth paragraph where it says council has a responsibility to current and future communities. As a growth council, a growing population presents significant opportunities. However, this growth also presents challenges that will place substantial demands on council's financial resources. And the first two dot points are the ones that stand out for me. Higher expectations from a growing community for new and upgraded services, fighting against the pressures of maintaining amenity in rural and fringe areas and across many established townships. And I think what makes Cardinia great is how diverse our landscape and our people are, but our single biggest challenge over the next 1, 2, 5, 10 years and in the future will be balancing exactly that. And as a council, I think we're on the right track, and some people are going to have differing opinions, but that's the direction we're heading and that's the fight that we have on our hands. But I believe this council's up for it, so I'll be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Are there any other speakers to this item? Councillor Payton.
Thank you, and I really appreciate your comments there, Councillor Thompson. The plan states the cost for this council to deliver services and infrastructure is rising faster than CPI-linked revenue growth. Let's unpack that. Councils consistently pay over the odds for services, and bureaucracy adds significant cost, and the plan doesn't really address that. Community groups can sometimes deliver, and I say sometimes deliver projects cheaper and better, yet we burden them with compliance and control, and that's a missed opportunity. To formulate this plan, councillors were given 3 options: freeze the rates, increase them, or apply for a variation. This plan assumes we'll increase rates, and I object to that, as I've said before. Not once has a resident business owner or farmer told me that they want to pay more. To manage debt, however, my colleagues have chosen to increase rates and find new additional revenue sources. We need to tackle the spending, not just chase the revenue. We must stop covering responsibilities that aren't ours. Rates income is stretched really thin. Core programs suffer while the nice-to-haves are being indulged. Submitting to the state's unreachable growth targets and covering their infrastructure shortfalls is crippling our budget. We must push back in collaboration with other councils, like we've done to oppose the ESVF tax that has resulted in a record-breaking petition of 43,000 signatures. Our forecasts rely on flawed state models that ignore the threat of increased cost shifting. Already we've had waste levies, the ESVF tax, gaps in the GATE funding. What's next? This plan doesn't address the real need for Cardinia to deliver financial relief. Cardinia experiences some of the highest rental stress and homelessness in the state, and our response? Increase the rates. Our farmers face inflated land prices, rising taxes, and are drowning in red and green tape that hampers their livelihood and ability to continue farming. Our response? Increase the rates. If this plan passes, council will continue to amass debt and ignore the real issues. The state's debt is spiralling, and we're about to be hit by the tidal wave of cost shifting. How can we forecast a 10-year budget when the state government is so unpredictable? I won't be supporting this financial plan in its current form. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers to this item? Councillor Nicol.
Thank you, Mayor. I support the officer's recommendation, and I would just like to take a moment to commend the council staff and the team who've pulled together the financial report. For me, it's a very sobering but very professional document that actually puts the case in our financial situation squarely on the table. And in many respects, I concur exactly with Councillor Payton's observations, but also Councillor Thompson's comments as well. I would like to point to the section of the plan on page 11, which highlights the adjusted underlying result. The reporting, financial reporting on the surface for Cardinia Shire, we seem to be awash with cash. but so much of that cash is allocated funding to growth projects and must be spent on Project X, Project Y, Project Z, which are not necessarily our agenda or the community's agenda, but need to be done regardless. And when you take that away, what's left is the underlying result. And you can see in the table in section 4.1 that it doesn't shift through the forward estimates out into 10 years horizons. Nothing's changing. We actually need a significant series of breakthroughs to actually break the pattern that we are in. We are barely keeping up with the growth agenda. As more development goes in and those community expectations from those new people moving in hit us, and the developers hand over all their shiny new infrastructure to us with a gap, a funding gap that we also inherit, the situation won't change. And this report indicates that very precisely. Down on page 154 of our council report, that's a bit further, sorry. If I just scroll down, the comprehensive income statement 6.1 reinforces that as well. So page 19 of the report, and then if you roll over to page 20, that last line there also talks to our comprehensive result, but underneath that is our adjusted underlying result, actual result, not just the percentages shown. And you can see that 10-year pattern is not changing. We need big financial breakthroughs in the next 10 years if we are going to turn the trajectory of the Shire around. So I'm fully supportive of the report because it tells the story as it is. It's up to our council plan and our livability plan, our other strategic pieces of work to find a way through. And our challenge as a council is to carefully weigh requests from the community, whether it's golf courses, whether it's sports complexes, whatever it is. Our actual true objectives should be things that are going to give us return on investment to change the trajectory of this plan. Otherwise, we're going to flatline out for the 10 years into the future.
Thanks, Councillor Nicol. Thanks, councillors, for your commentary on the report. I agree with some of what's been said. I think it is a fantastic report. I mean, it's really interesting as a growth area council when you look at these sustainability indicators and how far should we hold ourselves to these standards. So these are a one-size-fits-all financial sustainability indicators that don't really care about things like how far outside of Melbourne you are, how many people move into your shire every day, how big your shire is, how many unsealed roads you have, etc., etc., etc. All of the litany of challenges that Cardinia Shire has that differentiates us from so many other councils. And so when I look at the adjusted underlying result and things like that, that is paramount. Financial sustainability for any council should be the #1 issue. But it's not the only issue, is it? Because if financial sustainability is the only thing you attack, you don't do anything. You sit back and you let the coffers build up and up and up and say, well, our financial sustainability is really good, but we're not doing anything for the community. So I think it is a balance, and I think that's something that this council is doing a very, very good job at. But we do need to tighten the belt further. And I think that's what's interesting about the adjusted underlying result, particularly the projections, is because they assume that we're going to be able to increase efficiency over time. And that's going to be the challenge. And I think that's where service cuts and things of that nature are going to have to be looked at, because local government in general as a sector is struggling. I mean, there's no surprise to me or anyone around this table that both the federal and the state government have had inquiries into local government sustainability. It's not because councillors are, wanting too much or wanting things too gold and shiny. It's because the sector, as in Victoria in particular, with rate capping, is really, really struggling. So I'll be interested to see what comes out of that. I don't want the burden inevitably passed on to the ratepayer. I do want council to be more efficient. And when we compare ourselves with other councils a little bit closer into the city, we see that they have other sources of revenue. They have parking as a large source of revenue. They have investment properties as a source of revenue. I don't know what the answer is for Cardinia Shire, but that's what the Investment and Advisory Policy Group will be looking at. because we know now that all councils cannot solely just rely on rates as a source of income and be financially sustainable moving forward. So I want to thank Alison, Wayne and the finance team and everyone who put this together, because I think this gives us really sure footing that the information that we're going off of is sound, and you need that when you're making decisions. But yeah, certainly some challenges ahead for council. And I think we've been transparent with our community about that. We haven't been shy in coming forward about that, and you'll see that as this term rolls on. But as I said before, it doesn't mean that we just tighten the belt and say we're not spending anything because we're a growth area council. We are, and we know that all of our communities, whether they're inside the growth bubble or not, need services and deserve those services, and we're committed to giving it to them. All right, that's 3 minutes for me. Would anyone else like to speak to this item? There being none, I'll go back to you to sum up.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, councillors. Nothing further to add.
All right, thank you. So let's put the officer recommendation to 7.2.3 up for a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. 7.2.4, our asset plan. The recommendation here is that Council 1 adopts the asset plan 2025 to 2035 in accordance with the requirements of Section 92(4) of the Local Government Act 2020, and 2, publishes the new asset plan 2025 to 2035 to Cardinia Shire Council's website. Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Pomeroy.
I'd like to move the officer recommendation as noted.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Nicol. Over to you, Councillor Pomeroy.
Council looks after 2.7 billion of built infrastructure assets: roads, sealed and unsealed, pathways, drainage, car parks, bridges, buildings, playgrounds and open space. This asset plan provides a roadmap for how council will maintain, renew and invest in infrastructure assets to support our growing and diverse community. It outlines the investment required across all stages of the asset life cycle, including maintenance, renewal, acquisition, expansion, upgrades, disposal, and where we need to, decommissioning. This plan improves or aims to improve, but I think it definitely does, transparency around our asset value and performance. And we as councillors are definitely benefiting from a number of reports. There's been a Power BI dashboard that's been developed, which basically means that in real time we can see what each of our asset classes are and at what stage in their life cycle they are. And this is incredible and will help to inform our decisions. It is up to date whenever we open that up. So I think that's a real benefit of this plan as well. And I will be supporting this tonight.
Thank you. Councillor Nicol.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, again, another really insightful report, and I commend the officers for pulling it together. If I could turn our page to 39, page 39 of the report is a really good sort of visual snapshot, but also points out the size of what the Cardinia operation now is. It's really important that we don't let assets deteriorate to the point where they cost an absolute bomb to recover, or service levels or the ability to actually use that asset is reduced. But we're talking now a $2.7 billion replacement value in the assets that Cardinia manages. And interestingly, the renewal gap also, just coming off discussing the financial plan, indicates some very sobering reading. So $69.01 million initial renewal gap. And what this plan aims to do is reduce that over, again, an extended period of time, 10-year period, and it's still going to be 35 million at the end of that. So big culprits, of course, buildings, bridges, open spaces. And as more development comes in down here, there'll be more of that. Yeah, a great document that actually places us in our current context, just like the financial report, and indicates there's still a lot of work ahead of council in order to make sure that gap is becoming more manageable.
Thank you, Councillor Nicol. Would anyone else like to speak to this item? Councillor Payton.
Apologies in advance. I probably shouldn't have worn my Grinchy green today. So this asset plan represents a tremendous body of work. Capturing the data needed to inform it has been no small feat, a true exercise in taming the beast. But our engineers, armed with determination and expertise, have delivered an upgraded asset management system with significant productivity gains, and I echo the comments that Councillor Nicol just made. We now have a real-time database that can be easily interrogated and updated, enabling faster, more accurate decision-making. It's important to note that this asset plan excludes asset types such as plant, fleet, property, furniture and IT, each of which is managed through its own specialised systems. I remain concerned about the gaps in infrastructure contributions from the state government, as mentioned earlier. These gaps mean that core infrastructure is not receiving the attention or funding it needs to be maintained cost effectively. A big challenge for this council's plans and budgets is that we're at the mercy of state and federal political promises that are often only partially fulfilled. This leaves council to shoulder the shortfall, scrambling to find the resources to maintain these assets over time. Across the Shire, we see crazy amounts of money spent on shiny new high-spec sports pavilions and the like, delivered off the back of political commitments. Meanwhile, essential infrastructure like roads and drainage remains underfunded. Project management and property maintenance still fall short of the performance levels needed to deliver the true financial value. In conclusion, while this asset plan is a strong step forward, it highlights the urgent need for consistent, reliable funding and a shift in priorities from political optics to long-term sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? I'll go back to you, Councillor Pomeroy.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it is important to note that on those infrastructure gaps and then the state and federal funding and the inquiries that are being run, this does give us some really valuable data in those conversations we are having with ministers as to the size of the gap, because often they don't really understand, they don't comprehend just how big the gaps are. And this is not only a valuable piece of work for us, but it does help drive conversations and advocacy around a number of items. So I too commend the officers for the amount of work that has gone into this, but also the continual improvement that will happen with this document over the coming years. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So we'll put the officer recommendation to 7.2.4 up for a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. 7.2.5, the Road Management Plan 25 to 29. The recommendation is that Council 1 adopts the Road Management Plan 2025 to 29 in accordance with the requirements of Section 105 of the Road Management Act 2004, and 2 publishes the new Road Management Plan to Cardinia Shire Council's website. Do I have a mover? I see you, Councillor Potter.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to propose an alternate motion.
Thank you. Please read it.
That Council modifies Figure 3, Maintenance Management Process of the Draft Road Management Plan 25-2029 as adopted for community consultation at its meeting on the 21st of July 2025 to include the words "and monitored" to the action to be taken if no defects are identified beyond intervention level. So it reads, no works required, inspecting details recorded and monitored. 1.2 adopts the Road Management Plan 2025-2029 in accordance with the requirements of Section 105 of the Road Management Act 2004. 2.3 publishes the new Road Management Plan 2025-2029 to Cardinia's website.
Thank you. We note that. So, councillors, just for clarification, it is essentially the same motion with a slight amendment that was just up on the screen there. So, is there a seconder for Councillor Potter's alternate? I see you, Councillor Owen. I'll go back to you, Councillor Potter.
Each council is required to update its road management plan every 4 years, with this process typically taking place after council election. I want to thank the council staff who've worked so hard on this plan, along with the community members and committees who contributed to as part of the community consultation, comment and feedback, along with my fellow councillors. The Road Management Plan is a formal policy that outlines Council's approach to inspecting, repairing and maintaining the local road and footpath network. It serves as a practical framework detailing specific standards and timeframes for asset inspection and repair, rather than acting as an aspirational or strategic document. The review this year aimed to improve community safety, ensure compliance with regulations, and adopt best practices. Key proposed changes include updating the types of assets covered, providing specific guidelines for concrete curbs and channels, and clarifying procedures for vegetation clearance. Recognising the increasing urbanisation of Cardinia, the review also identified a need to rebalance investment priorities, focusing more on the safety and accessibility of footpaths, which is especially important given the rise in pedestrian activity and an ageing population. I'm happy to accept this plan, but for the one word, which is why I've put the alternate motion up, and I believe it's a very important word. The word is monitored, which might mean a lot to individuals in our community who have had their unsealed roads checked, but no works have been actioned yet, for example. I propose that the word monitored be added to the table chart on page 268 of the council meeting agenda and on page 19 of the road management report itself. I understand that some residents may feel frustrated when their unsealed roads inspected and works are not carried out in the timeframe hoped for. It's important to appreciate that the roadworks team follow a systematic and equitable process to ensure fairness across the entire Shire. Plus, there are over 900 kilometres or so of roads, unsealed roads in Cardinia, and also around 832 kilometres of sealed roads, give or take. We are a large shire, from Bunyip to Beaconsfield, Lang Lang to Emerald, which is about the distance between here and Sydney and back. It's a lot. It's got to be fair. Also, maybe this is a good time to gently remind people that not all roads in Cardinia are Cardinia Council's roads. Some are indeed under the jurisdiction of the Department of Transport and Planning, Regional Roads Victoria. You can Google who looks after each road if you want to. Basically, I think the roads team are doing well and giving their best. This report outlines the primary objective of the Roads Management Plan to manage risk to the public. To achieve this, the plan prioritises road inspection timeframes based on road classification with a strong emphasis on traffic volume. This ensures that most critical roads, which are used by most of the public, receive the highest level of oversight and maintenance. From what I understand, that when an inspection of roads take place, the condition is carefully assessed and recorded, and if a road is not to require immediate works as per the plan, then it is monitored. I want everyone to know that it's not just then forgotten about. It is actually monitored as part of an ongoing maintenance program. I hope my colleagues can get behind this minor but important adjustment in the name of Council communicating more clearly and respectfully with our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Potter. I support you in your alternate amending those words. At the 21st of July Council meeting, Council opted to go out for public consultation regarding this then draft plan. 3 posts were published on Facebook and Instagram. It was on Council's website. It reached over 12,000 people, 725 interactions, a total of 214 people visited the page, 175 downloads, and 9 people leaving feedback. So 2 comments received directly relate to matters covered in the draft road management plan. One questioning the difference on inspection timeframes based on the makeup of the road, given that sealed roads deteriorate at lower rates than unsealed roads. The person suggested that both categories should have at least equal inspection timeframes. Also, there was a comment regarding a request to review the timeframes relating to inspection and repairs on unsealed roads, which are defined as limited access, especially when the access to a property is impeded by storm damage. In response, the primary objective of the road management plan is to manage the risk to the public. To achieve this, the plan prioritised road inspection timeframes based on road classification. This plan also went to the Access and Inclusion Committee, which was great. They provided feedback. They made commentary around pram crossings. Additionally, 5 of the 9 people commented directly advocated for the continuation of the Sealing the Hills program. So that was an interesting point. It is really important to note this is a plan that we have to adopt every 4 years. But obviously, this plan is only one part of Council's response to our road network, particularly the unsealed roads. We've just adopted the Council plan. As part of that is the unsealed roads improvement plan, is a direct action from the Council plan. This will feed into Council's response in responding to this big issue of unsealed roads, particularly. Drainage, there's a commitment to update our drainage in response to people's concerns. Also, every year we have an ongoing discussion regarding budgets and priorities. And it's up to this council, if we want to do more on these roads, that we must drive it through that council budget process. But yes, this is just one part. It's not the only part in how council responds to the number one issue through our satisfaction survey is roads. This is one part, not the be or end all. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other councillors? I see you, Councillor Payton.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Potter, for the alternate. I'm going to support this motion. Council's overarching goal is to deliver a safe and efficient road network that meets community needs within the limits of our available resources. The Road Management Plan, or RMP, is not a strategic vision document. It's a legal and operational framework, and for me, that's the difference here. It's something that we need to support. It sets out the standards, inspection schedules and response times for maintaining our assets, and it's informed by both legislation and advice from our insurers. I thank Peter Benezik, the General Manager for Infrastructure, for his further advice recently to us, highlighting that updates in the plan represent a strategic risk-based reallocation of maintenance funds. It moves us from the bottom quartile to the top middle tier in terms of community safety, particularly by prioritising high impact areas like footpaths and curbs. It's important to acknowledge the constraints we face, our intervention thresholds for road and footpath faults, the criteria that determine when repairs are triggered remain high. These thresholds are aligned with over 80% of Victorian councils and are considered best practice, but they are often higher than what our community finds acceptable. There's an understanding in our roads maintenance teams that they always strive to achieve higher than the prescribed thresholds as published in the Road Management Plan. Whilst this delivers better outcomes on our roads, it can be at times a point of confusion in communication between councillors, the public and the road maintenance teams. I think this alternate goes some way to clearing that up without exposing the council to litigation risk. And my fellow councillors representing rural wards, I know you understand the frustration of acting as the unofficial customer service desk for council. I'm really appreciative that we're all aligned and have the support of our roads management, that we'll continue on working to close the gaps between community expectations, communication about roads issues and actual service delivery. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep, Councillor Nicol.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Payton, for those words, but I can't support this on the principle of table 6.5.2. I also acknowledge the work that has occurred in the past week to walk us through this document and us to understand its basis at law and its protection for council staff and also for the ratepayers if should the worst outcomes occur. However, what this document does is it reinforces that we've got two Cardinians, basically. We've got the urban and we've got the rural. And having, I don't know about you, but hitting a pothole that's 10 centimetres deep and half a metre wide is not fun. And then where you actually have a breach of that standard, waiting 3 times longer than a person on a sealed road, just because you're on a dirt road, is not good either. People generally report road. They know they live on dirt roads. They drive accordingly to the standards, but dirt roads being what they are, they will deteriorate quickly. Adverse weather events, dry weather, wet weather, the roads are far more dynamic than a sealed road, yet the intervention levels and the response times and the repair time frames are 2-3 times longer, hooked in this document. So I've taken the opportunity through previous council briefings to try and point this out. I'll stick to my guns. I don't support this based on that table and based on the reinforcement of the fact that we're in 2 different shires.
Thank you, Councillor Nicol. Are there any other speakers to this item? Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, this is the Achilles heel of Cardinia Shire. And as custodians of $1.06 billion of roads and car parks, $239 million of pathways, $241 million worth of bridges, drainage to the tune of $534 million. That's what we are custodians of in assets. It is a constant work at progress. I acknowledge my fellow councillors who struggle to pin this down. This document, this is a working document. It's a work in progress. It will always need to be improved. We are constantly trying to find best practice and innovation in this area. We are the second most fire-prone area in the world. We've had Ash Wednesday, Black Saturday, the Bunyip Complex bushfires. We are affected by wind at a high level with many trees in the hills. Rain, we get flooded down in the floodlands, wherefore the water just lays there and stays there. We had 180 mil fall at one stage in about 3 hours a few years ago. And basically, we can have our roads absolutely perfect, particularly, and within half an hour, they can be totally destroyed within half an hour through wind, rain. It's one of these things that we will always have to keep working on. I do notice it acknowledges in the document the exceptional circumstances that we do face: floods, storms, fires, resources shortages. It does have a suspension of the plan, which I find extremely interesting, and I have seen this put in place in the past. In the event that the CEO of council has considered the impact of such an event on limited financial resources of council and other conflicting priorities, determine the plan cannot be met pursuant to Section 83 of the Wrongs Act 1958, the CEO will write to council's officer in charge of the plan and inform that some sort or all or the timeframes and responses in council's plan are to be suspended. This is because there are times when we have just had to generate so much more resources to the problem. I remember the Bunyip bushfires. We basically had something like 30 staff members get reassigned to try and help the community during that devastating time. At times we have to be agile and change. This is a document that gives us a guidance, it gives us an idea around this space, but change happens so quickly that we just have to be agile in this space. We've done really well in the past. We plan, I believe, in an amazing way that even the Department of Emergency inside the Victorian State Government often come and look at Cardinia Shire's planning that we prepare ourselves for, because we've been through it before and we will go through it again. It's a working document. I look forward to, I'll approve it at this stage. I know that fellow councillors are going to bring up certain things in it that they feel need to be improved. It is a working document. And I thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Are there any other speakers to this item? I'll go back to you, Councillor Potter, to sum up.
Thank you, Mayor. The Road Management Plan is a formal policy that outlines council's approach to inspecting, repairing and maintaining the local road and footpath network. It serves as a practical framework detailing specific standards and timeframes for asset inspection, repair, rather than acting as an aspirational or strategic document. I hear Councillor Payton and Councillor Nicol. There has to be a plan and a schedule. We are a big shire. Over 16,000 kilometres of roads have to be cared for. The data that Councillor Ross has shared is real. It is a working document. We are constantly trying to find best practice in this area. Our natural disasters in Cardinia are significant. And when you have a road within half an hour, it can be destroyed, even if it was perfect half an hour ago. In the event, our CEO does have powers to suspend our council plan due to natural disasters. At times, we have to be agile and change. This document gives us a guide and an way of dealing with this unruly problem day to day, and it is a working document. Also, I want to acknowledge and share, as Councillor Owen shared, that we're both on the Access and Inclusion Committee. As a part of the community consultation, they did raise issues about the accessibility of pram crossings and their adherence to current standards, and that's what it's all about: community engagement, community feeling empowered to contribute their thoughts and ideas. Their feedback won't be forgotten, and are matters important to be considered as part of the asset renewal programs, but not so much for this road management plan. But it certainly won't be forgotten. It will be monitored. The alternate motion proposed is just to be as transparent and as clear as possible with the public. And I think the addition of this word "and monitored" makes it clearer to the public that we respect them and their concerns. We don't just assess and forget. We are with you and everyone in Cardinia Shire. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll put Councillor Potter's alternate motion to 7.2.5 up for a vote. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. 7.2.6, Instrument of Delegation, Council to CEO. The recommendation here is that our council, in the exercise of the power conferred by Section 11(1)(b) of the Local Government Act 2020, resolves that 1, there be delegated to the person holding the position or acting or performing the duties of Chief Executive Officer the powers, duties and functions set out in the attached Instrument of Delegation to the Chief Executive Officer, subject to the conditions and limitations specified in that instrument. 2, the instrument comes into force immediately upon this resolution being made and is to be signed by the Council's Chief Executive Officer and the Mayor. 3, on the coming into force of the instrument, all previous delegations to the Chief Executive Officer are revoked. And finally, 4, the duties and functions set out in the instrument must be performed and the powers set out in the instruments must be executed in accordance with any guidelines or policies of Council that it may from time to time adopt. Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Pomeroy.
I'd like to move the officer recommendation as noted.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Thompson. Back to you, Councillor Pomeroy.
I think this is really important to do at the start of a new CEO's term, and I would really like to welcome James here for his first meeting, and to also thank, I think Peter is behind me, thank Peter for his work over recent months in this. So it is important to note that the powers to be delegated tonight haven't changed since they were last adopted on the 19th of May 2025.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. Also, just want to echo Councillor Pomeroy's thoughts. A welcome to James and a thank you to Peter and all the other staff that have picked up some slack and pulled some extra work during the interim period. Very much appreciated. Just echoing also some further thoughts that it's not necessarily a compulsory thing, that it's just a good governance thing that we go through this. But yeah, obviously more than happy to support, and we'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Are there any other speakers? Yep. Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Mayor. I will support tonight's proposed motion. I just do have questions, and I raised it in briefing tonight, that I would like more information regarding the construction of urban and rural roads construction contractors panel. It does, this delegation gives the CEO power to adopt or accept contracts under $3.5 million coming from that panel. So I've asked of officers for further information, and that will come in the coming weeks, just regarding the panel. How often is that panel reviewed? What are there any local contractors on that panel? Just give councillors more information regarding that panel, to give councillors confidence that we're doing the right thing in relation to this delegation, the benefits of this. So, yeah, I look forward to that information coming to councillors, but I will support the motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other speakers to this one? Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, this document's really important document. It came about during the different times, like during COVID, the sealing of the hills, monetary issues there. We had to make decisions on the spot with tenders after long deliberations. When contracts come through, they need to be paid, and sometimes council just can't sit to make those decisions at the time. There's only one person as councillors we employ, it's the CEO. We either trust him to do the job we employ him to do, or we don't. And we do, because we just employed him. So therefore, this is part of his job for us. We give him this instrument of delegation on our behalf. We can't personally sign all these documents ourselves. I know as mayor, you try and do that, but you don't. You co-sign it with other people. And the CEO, I'm sure, wants to do absolutely the best he can for us. He will advise us all the way on those different things. And I just say that, you need to trust. And in this case, this is part of what we do. We have to do it mandated within a certain period of time, which we're doing at the moment. So I just approve this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers to this item? I'll go back to you, Councillor Pomeroy, to sum up.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing further.
Thank you. All right, so we'll put the officer recommendation to 7.2.6 up for a vote. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Let's move to 7.2.7, the instrument of appointment and authorisation under the Planning and Environment Act 1987. The recommendation here is that Council, in the exercise of the powers conferred by Section 147(4) of the Planning and Environment Act 1987, resolves that 1, the members of Council staff referred to in the attached instrument be appointed and authorised as set out in the instrument, and 2, that the instrument comes into force immediately upon it being signed by Council's Chief Executive Officer and remains in force until Council determines to vary or revoke it. Do I have a mover for this one? Councillor Payton.
Thank you, Mayor. I move this recommendation as noted.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? I see you, Councillor Roberts. Over to you, Councillor Payton.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Roberts. As I understand it, this motion is required under the Planning and Environment Act 1987 to delegate authority from this council to the council's officers to allow them to perform their role as part of the statutory planning team. In particular, by accepting this motion, we are providing permission for 2 things. By this instrument of appointment and authorisation, Cardinia Shire Council will 1, under Section 147, Part 4 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987, authorise the officer to carry out the duties or functions and to exercise the powers of an authorised officer under the Planning and Environment Act 1987. And secondly, under Section 313 of the Local Government Act 2020, authorises the officer either generally or in a particular case to institute proceedings for offences against the acts and regulations described in this instrument. I submit the vote to councillors for further comment or voting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, through Mayor. An audit was recently carried out on the authorisations by our governance team. While there were no issues that were found to be, no issues were found through the audit, but it was just necessary for the instrument to be reenacted so that the officers are named individually, so that when they attend, if they were to attend VCAT or a court, it's a separate piece of paper with each officer's name on it, as was explained to us in briefing. So I particularly want to acknowledge the work of the 50 officers in the paper. Cardinia, as we know, is growing and changing, and the role of administering the scheme is just so vitally important to how we live in the Shire, our built form, and our environment, and protecting that environment as well as ensuring that we have places for people to live and grow. So thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to this item? I'll go back to you, Councillor Payton, to sum up.
Nothing further. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So we'll put the officer recommendation to 7.2.7 up for a vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried. 7.2.8, response to notice of motion 1112, Emerald Lake Precinct ELP Master Plan Review. The recommendation here is that Council 1 supports the continuation of scoping activities for the Emerald Lake Precinct Master Plan Review and associated projects based on the considerations outlined in this report. 2, acknowledges that the scoping process will require additional time and resources beyond the initial 6-month timeframe, as outlined in the activity schedule. This extended effort is necessary to ensure a comprehensive and informed approach to planning and implementation of these works. And 3, notes that the scope of the original ELP master plan remains unchanged at this stage. Once the recommended actions have been implemented, this, along with insights from community engagement, will inform the prioritisation of initiatives and any necessary changes to scope. Do I have a mover for this item? I see Councillor Nicol.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move the motion as put.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for this? I see Councillor Ross. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. This really effectively is an update following on from the original notice of motion earlier in the year. I'm just very pleased to repeat what the officers have actually reported that to date. The implementation of the original master plan has continued where feasible. So signage project has been rolling out. The cafe demolition was paused, and the Emerald and Cardinia Art Societies in coalition have leased that building, and it's become a very successful art gallery in the hills, and local artists are shifting art and selling many pieces. So it's been highly successful to date. And the master plan review is beginning to gather momentum. The other thing that has occurred since the original notice of motion is the operational stakeholder committee meetings have resumed at Emerald Lake Park after they ceased earlier in 2024. So things are progressing. Probably be happier if they progress more quickly, but that's all right. We're moving, and we'll move into a phase where a wider stakeholder and consultation piece will commence starting February next year, approximately, to actually have a look at some of the elements of the original master plan that have literally changed with changes of tenancy. This is a park that probably reached its heyday in the 70s and has been in a steady, slow decline, talking about asset gaps and asset maintenance gaps. There's a lot of work to actually pick up how do we revitalise and re-energise this sort of precinct. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nicol. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. I commend Councillor Nicol for putting up the notice of motion that he did about this master plan and having different ideas on the assets that were there, doing something different with them rather than just going down the pathway of where it was all heading. Yes, it is old. Yes, it is run down in certain areas, but it has a unique natural beauty about it. For anyone who's been there, it really is in the hills, a jewel in the crown of Cardinia Shire, Emerald Lake Park. And if you don't realise that, you should go for a walk up there. Go to Nobilius Nursery as well at the same time. A really lovely area. But it is a very, very delicate thing up there. You could spend literally hundreds of millions of dollars investing on the place. But we just don't have that sort of money. So Councillor Nicol is correct. We need to go through this plan piece by piece and try and work out what we can afford to do up there and do it the best that we possibly can. It is a place of natural beauty up there. We need to keep it, preserve it, and we need to uphold so it doesn't fall into disrepair. It's usable at the moment. It does have a lot of natural beauty, but it does need a working plan in this area, because money will come through from time to time and we need to harness that money and re-put it back into the area. We also need to reevaluate, as Councillor Nichols said, on what we do in this area, because things do change. It's like the Emerald Art Society leasing a place. In the past, many people wouldn't have thought of doing that. It was a cafe, those sort of things, so we need to have a look at that. Puffing Billy has built a really modern area in the middle of it too, which has really upgraded some of that area in the middle. It's brought a lot of people from Melbourne. Part of our tourism hub here in Cardinia Shire is in the hills. It's only a few hours drive from Melbourne. It's a day trip. And we need to support that as a council. It's been talked about in the past how we need to find other sources of income, and we need to find other sources of generating money. And this is one area up in the hills that we can look at tourism. We can actually encourage businesses. The better we do things, the more people will come, and the more people will come, the more that they'll spend their dollars in Cardinia Shire. Anyway, I look forward to a future master plan as an ongoing piece of work that we can adapt and change as needed to make it the best place that we can. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to this report? I'll go back to you, Councillor Nicholl.
Thank you, Mayor. So Puffing Billy regularly delivers over 400,000 visitors, carries 400,000 visitors per annum. And a large percentage of those actually end up in Emerald Lake Park. And so one of the things that I noted out of the officer's report was on page 400, where we talk about Emerald Lake Park as a regional destination. Puffing Billy is actually an international attraction. We actually have in the hills a series of precincts and attractions that could actually be at state or national significance. And so pitching Emerald Lake Park as a regional destination is true at one level. It's definitely a jewel in the crown of the hills parks for locals, and perhaps as wide as eastern suburbs people, but it's also visited by people from interstate and international visitors as well. And the potential that we have for economic transformation up in the hills around these precincts, around the Eastern Dandenong Ranges Trail that connects them, around the Heritage Museum and the former nursery precinct as well, is actually quite interesting. So I think we need to start re-pitching Emerald Lake Park as not just a jewel, but as a one pearl in a string of necklace pearls that are actually of state significance or greater. Now, bearing that in mind, thinking about the Officer District Park, which is a district park, it cost 9.7 million. And what we're talking about here is 3.8 million for 3 years. So again, we've got this disconnect between rural and urban Cardinia, two different shires, two different Cardinias. So it's just another, sorry to finish on a downer, but the potential is here, but we need to reframe things, and that's what we're looking to do in the new year.
Thank you. So we'll put the officer recommendation to 7.2.8 up for a vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried. Thank you. I don't think it cost 9.6. I think it was 7.6, but that's okay. We'll go to 7.2.9, road discontinuance and sale at Trythall Street, Beaconsfield. The recommendation here. It's a very long recommendation. I'm not going to read it actually. The recommendation is listed in the report. Councillor Nicholl. Lucky I didn't read it out. Councillor Nicholl's got a conflict of interest as declared at the start of the meeting. Thanks for jumping up and down. We'll call you back in when we are finished. All right, we'll note in the minutes that Councillor Nicholl left the room prior to 7.2.9. So this one is about the road discontinuance and sale at Trythall Street in Beaconsfield. The officer's recommendation is listed in the report. Do I have a mover for that? I see you, Councillor Owen.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll move the officer's recommendation. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Roberts. Over to you, Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Mayor. At the July Council meeting, Council considered a report on the discontinuance and transfer of land, or part of the land, of Trythall Street, Beaconsfield, gave notice of its intention to undertake the required community engagement to discontinue the section of road and sell it to the State Government Department, DECA. So Council received 3 submissions, which can be found in the report. 2 submitters were from Pakenham and 1 from Emerald. I acknowledge that. All submissions commented regarding the proposed sale of $1. 1 submission suggested a 5-year maintenance period in lieu of payment. Another preferred more reasonable price be paid. And 3rd submission suggested an inflated market value. Officers are now returning to seek support and further resolution to proceed with the process of discontinuing the road and transferring the land to DECA. In response to the submissions, and I do thank everyone who took the time to respond, it is advised that DECA will not support the proposal to move forward, and Council will be left with a road reservation that would inhibit further development of the regional parklands. And I think that is a real risk. Already, DECA is saying they don't have budgets to really complete, at this stage, to complete the acquisitions required for the future Cardinia Creek parklands. Already, they've responded to Council saying they've paused the remaining acquisitions at the moment because of budget constraints from DECA. This is such an important project. I really want to see it come to fruition. So it is 375 square metres, road proposed for discontinuance and transfer to DECA. It is unencumbered, freehold, title owned by Cardinia Shire, and its road status. The section of land that we're talking about is in the last page of this item, and it's just the creek sort of reservation we're talking about. So the land value that one submitter suggested, 300 odd thousand, is not correct. I think the report does talk about the valuation being 22,000 excluding GST. We're proposing it to sell it for $1, but DECA is paying for all the legal costs, which about $18,000, I believe. So I think this is a good thing. We need to continue. Council would love to see the Cardinia Creek parklands. It's the area butts Casey. We're hoping to get people from Beaconsfield to Clyde North as part of this great proposal. We may see it in our lifetime, but this is one small part that we can play to kick this project along. It is such a great plan. I encourage people to look at it. It is definitely something that will benefit our community, and I think Council should vote this through, support it, and we'll continue to work with DECA to push this project along. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Councillor Roberts.
Through you, Mayor. It's important that we make decisions in terms of how land is exchanged in a sensible manner. In this case, the land has limited use for anything other than helping to consolidate this future parkland. And I feel that it's this is a sensible choice to make, and we may not see the fruition of our decision now, but down the track, it could be the difference between us being able to put a path through or link, as Councillor Owen said, link us to other shires and enable community to walk or ride through parklands that are along the creek. So to me, it's a sound decision, and that's why I'm supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to this item? Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm glad that Councillor Owen qualified that when he said they don't have money and they can't afford it. I thought, wow, they're in real trouble if they can't afford $1. But it was highlighted that there was $18,000 of legal fees would be connected to the transaction that needs to take place. Anyone who has any doubts about why this land needs to be sold and consolidated just has to look at the map. it's a natural thing for that creek reservation to have this piece of land connecting the other two pieces of land. Otherwise, there could be a divide in between. Putting it all together is just a natural way of making the possibilities endless on what can be done there, because it's all one piece of land. And as it was highlighted, maybe in our lifetime or our generations to come lifetime, you know, they will value using parkland or walkways or transitions through. And this just makes it a whole lot easier than having to go and deal with a strip in the middle, which would divide the two green spaces. Anyway, it looks like a natural thing to do, and I support it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Would anyone else like to speak to this one? I see no one, so I'll go back to you, Councillor Owen, to sum up.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councillors, for talking to this item. I think the overwhelming community benefit outweighs, getting a financial return, being 22,000. We acknowledge they're paying the legal fees. We acknowledge it's part of a big project that the state government needs to acquire, and this will be a fantastic project for our shire, connecting, obviously through Officer South. And through Clyde, hundreds of thousands of people, using this footpath, using this equestrian trails. It is a great plan. So this is one small part that council can try and get this moving. It's stated in the report. If we push and we ask for, 22,000, it may fall over. It is one small part. The overwhelming community benefit for our community is outstanding, and I move so. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll put the officer recommendation to 7.2.9 up for a vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried. Let's pause there. Welcome back, Councillor Nicol. All right, we note Councillor Nicol is back in the room in time for 7.3.1, our Procurement Policy 25 to 29. And the recommendation is that we adopt the Procurement Policy 2025 to 29 in accordance with the Local Government Act 2020. Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Pomeroy.
I'd like to move the officer recommendation as noted.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Ross. Over to you, Councillor Pomeroy.
This is another legislative requirement. Council must review its procurement policy once during a council term. This draft policy is based on the MAV Best Practice Procurement Policy template, developed in collaboration with over 17 procurement professionals across Victoria. And I think this is really important. We did collaborate last time. We did this with 6 councils, and this is just making sure that it's even more robust and aligns with 2024 best practice guidelines and is fully compliant with the Act. Procurement figures have been updated to be exclusive of GST in section 3.1, aligning with council budgeting practices and the MAV template. This change will simplify processes for staff and results in a 10% increase to current procurement thresholds. However, this increase is offset by the impacts of inflation, COVID-19, rising living costs and industry price growth. No formal changes have been made to threshold levels under this policy. I am in support of this document.
Thank you. Councillor Ross.
Nothing further. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to contribute to this item? I'll go back to you, Councillor Pomeroy.
Thanks, Mayor. Nothing further.
All right, let's do it. Let's put this to a vote. So the officer recommendation to 7.3.1, the procurement policy. All those in favour? I declare that carried. All right, let's go into 7.4.1, which is our annual report 2024 to 25. As the Mayor of Cardinia Shire and in accordance with Section 100 of the Local Government Act 2020, I'm proud to present the 24 to 25 annual report. It's a little bit like Council's State of the Union, so I'll just read out a brief intro and then we'll get a mover and seconder and we'll move it like a normal item. The annual report outlines Council's achievements in fulfilling the objectives and commitments of our Council plan and budget. It provides a comprehensive report of operations as well as audited financial statements and a performance statement. The annual report is a record of our achievements across all 5 strategic objectives of the Council plan. which are strong communities, livable places, thriving environments, prosperous economies, and responsible leaders. It also details how we responded to challenges and ensured responsible management of council resources. Some key achievements in 24-25 included delivering a capital works program valued at $65 million, completing or progressing a number of rec and community facilities, including Officer District Park, Bullim Integrated Child and Family Centre, Cooyrup Bowling and Community Hub, Garfield North Community Centre, and Worrell Rec Reserve Skate Park and Youth Plaza. Finishing the year with an operating surplus of $123.9 million, which is more than the budgeted surplus of $75 million. But remember the conversation we had before? That comes with strings attached. Delivering a range of events and programs that celebrated arts and culture, cultural diversity, our older residents, and the Shire's children and young people. We also delivered a range of crucial services and projects throughout 24-25, including maintaining those sealed and unsealed roads that we mentioned before, conducting over 17,000 maternal and child health nurse consultations, collecting over 23,000 tonnes of rubbish, maintaining 201 playgrounds, collecting just under 10,000 tonnes of recyclables, loaning over 320,000 library items, that's amazing, and maintaining 1,580 hectares of open space, which you can see is larger than many inner city councils in just our open space. So on behalf of my fellow councillors, it is with great pride that I present to our community this annual report as a record of our achievements. I look forward to continuing to work with my fellow councillors, council staff, and of course our community over this remaining council term to ensure our Shire remains a wonderful place to call home into our future. Thank you. So that is the presentation of our annual report. Do I have a mover for that item? I see you, Councillor Payton.
Thank you, Marin. That was a really good overview.
Just get a second.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
Beg your pardon.
That's all right.
I move the recommendation.
Perfect. And seconded by Councillor Roberts, and back to you.
Thank you, Mayor. That was a really good overview. The recommendation here is for noting that the process of preparing, auditing, adopting and publishing Cardinia's annual report for the 24-25 financial year is complete. Council approved in principle the financial and performance standards for the year ended 30th of June 2025 at its September meeting. The statements were considered and approved in principle by Council's Audit and Risk Committee at a meeting held in August. The annual financial statements represent a general purpose financial report consisting of a comprehensive income statement, balance sheet, statement of changes in equity, statement of cash flows, statement of capital works and accompanying notes. These statements have been prepared in accordance with the relevant professional and statutory requirements, including the Australian Accounting Standards. The performance statement reports against a range of performance indicators which are statutorily required under the Local Government Performance Reporting and Accountability Act 2014. Of course, there's a lot more in the annual report, as our Mayor just let us know, than just the financials and performance statements. It's an interesting and important read for anyone who's interested in learning more about Council's operations and processes, and especially a wealth of information to show how ratepayers' funds are spent. It's a huge undertaking to prepare the document, and I must say it's quite beautifully presented. I found out today that this, the hard copy of this annual report will be available at our service desk tomorrow, as from tomorrow morning. And I've also asked the question of our team, and I don't know the answer yet, but what I'd really like to see is a really trimmed down version of this, an easy read, so that it's more accessible for some people who just can't wade through the, it's quite a slog to actually read the detail. So I think it'd be terrific just to have a little Ready Reckoner type booklet of simple facts that people might be interested in knowing. So I'd like to thank all of the people who have contributed to the creation of the annual report. Of course, this includes council staff across every division whose work informs and prepares the document, but it also includes the wider community who continually interact with council programs and services and who hold the council to account with their questions, concerns and feedback. I also acknowledge the work of the previous council who are listed in the annual report and responsible for actions taken from July to October last year. Their council plan informed much of the work that has been undertaken in the 2024-25 financial year. We are grateful for their work and commitment. I thank in particular our finance team and council's executive leadership team and the members of the Audit and Risk Committee for their professionalism and care to escort these reports through processes to ensure that they meet statutory requirements. As said, this report is largely for noting. We've combed through the detail of the report over several meetings since June. I'll hand it over to my colleagues for further comment now. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Payton. Councillor Roberts?
Through you, Mayor. In terms of the easy read that Councillor Payton mentioned, I'd like to refer people to pages 12 and 13. I find these really handy, and when we were given this document, I actually went back to last year's to have a sort of comparison. The page 12 is the fast facts, which has many of those statistics the Mayor already mentioned. Things like, you know, we've got 201 playgrounds. We've collected 9,696 tonnes of recycling. We have 41 public toilets, and that number's gone up since last year. So, and the comparison to last year, I look back, our animal registrations had gone up considerably. There's now over 19,000 animals registered in the Shire, and council officers get out and about reminding people to keep their pets registered. They're out and about at the moment, actually. And then page 13 shows how that revenue is spent for every $100, how the revenue is broken down across different service categories. So, for example, we're talking about roads and drains quite a bit tonight. So roads, drains and footpaths, for every $100 of revenue spent, $20.72 would be allocated to roads. Further back in the document, there's also the governance and management checklist. This is required as part of the Local Government Act, and this outlines how an assessment as to how we're going with the various plans, key plans, many of which we signed off tonight, like the assets plan and the financial plan, and we need to report against this. And this is a key document that is checked by the Minister for Local Government and Fargo. So please come on into council and have a look, or look, it'll be on our website very shortly. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to this item? There being none, I'll go back to you, Councillor Payton.
Thank you. The only further comment I'd failed to make, and thank you, Councillor Roberts, is that the annual report will be uploaded to the website and available for viewing as from tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we'll put the officer recommendation to 7.4.1 up for a vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried. All right, we're going to take a short break now. Let's come back in 11 minutes at 9:20. I hereby declare the meeting adjourned. Councillor Palmer is already out of here. All right. Let's come back into the meeting. We'll move on to agenda item 7.4.2, which is for road pavement renewal works 25 to 26. The recommendation here is that Council 1 awards contract RFT 000085 pavement renewal works 2025 to 26 to Downer EDI Works Proprietary Limited for Pitt Road, Iona, and the intersection of 7 Mile Road and Bunyip River Road, Narnagoon, for the lump sum of $1,076,135.72, excluding GST. 2 awards contract RFT 000085 pavement renewal works 2025-26 to Shaw Constructions Vic Proprietary Limited for Manx Road in Dalmore for the lump sum of $412,058.21, excluding GST. 3 approves the contingency sum as outlined in the confidential attachment. And finally, 4 delegates authority to the CEO to approve variations up to 10% of the awarded contract values. Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Pomeroy.
I'd like to move the officer recommendation as noted.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Ross. Over to you, Councillor Pomeroy.
Council has undertaken a competitive tender process for the 2025-26 road pavement renewal program. The 3 roads under consideration within this contract have been identified as a high priority for treatment under Council's asset management systems. The tender for Pitt Road, Iona, and the intersection of 7 Mile Road and Bunyip River Road in Narnagoon was successfully submitted by Downer EDI Works and is the most advantageous for Council, providing the best value for money. The tender for Manx Road in Dalmore, submitted by Shaw Constructions, was the best value for money while providing excellent service. I would like to thank everyone that submitted to this tender. By awarding these lump sum contracts, we ensure timely renewal of our priority road assets, consistent with our asset management strategy that we discussed earlier tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Ross.
Nothing further, thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak to this item? I see none, so I'll go back to you, Councillor Pomeroy.
Nothing further, thanks, Mayor.
All right, so let's put the officer recommendation to 7.4.2 up for a vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried. 7.4.3 Annual Tree Planting Program, Cardinia Shire. The recommendation here is that 1, Council awards the contract for RFT 000076 Tree Planting Program to Melbourne Tree Works for $693,000 for the initial 2-year contract and, subject to performance, up to 2 additional 2-year extensions. 2, approves the use of any contingency items as outlined in the confidential attachment for the delivery of this contract should they arise throughout the course of the contract. And 3, delegates the CEO to have the authority to approve up to 10% variation on the total contract value as declared in recommendation 1. Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Thompson.
Move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Roberts. Over to you, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. So the purpose of this is to inform Council of the successful completion of another public tender process, and this was initiated to improve the efficiency of the Shire's tree planting program. Melbourne Tree Works is recommended as a successful tenderer, and the new contract is valued at approximately $693,000 over the next 6 years, and is anticipated to commence mid next month. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts.
Through you, Mayor, this contract will give surety to our tree team that they can continue their work and have a contract that is serviceable. There have been issues with having to do separate small tenders, and that's been difficult. So this removes that issue. It also has significant tree planting is really important. We really need to be caring for our environment, particularly as we are addressing a climate change emergency. Council is currently removing more trees than it's planting. This deficit directly hinders our ability to mitigate urban heat islands and reduce carbon emissions. Trees are vital for providing shade, cooling our urban environment and sequestering carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. By securing this contract, increasing the budget for planting, the Council can ensure a consistent and reliable supply of maintenance of new trees, enabling the reversement of this trend of canopy loss. I particularly want to give a shout out to residents that look after their street tree. I recently had experience where a street tree was lost, and the resident is extremely keen for the tree to be planted, as the trees are usually planted around April, and they lost their tree after April. They're having to wait the full year, and they're really looking forward to getting their tree replaced and giving it some love, to the extent they were offering to put one in themselves. So I think it's really important that we, keep and replace trees in older wards like mine, and also ensure that the trees that developers put in when they develop new areas have the support to and are looked after, so that we don't have to replace the trees again and again. So I support this tender. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to this item? There being no one, I'll go back to you, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Roberts. Foreshadowing the successful moving of this report, well done to Melbourne Tree Works on their submission, as it was classified as outstanding, with fully adhering to all the specifications, including the platform that council uses to document their assets. Also, just quickly to summarise, it's worth noting that the $693,000 covers the entire term, which includes 2 optional 2-year extensions. So for these reasons, it is recommended that council will be presented with the request to enter the contract. Thank you.
Okay, let's put the officer recommendation to 7.4.3 up for a vote. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. 7.5.1 Community Engagement Update for October 2025. The recommendation here is that the report is that council note the report of the engagement opportunities commencing or continuing in October 2025. Do I have a mover for this one? Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. Over to you, Councillor Owen.
Thanks, Mayor. This is obviously a monthly report. It talks about the community engagement for the month of October. There's been a number of activities in this space. Obviously, the review of the Cardinia Shire planning scheme, phase 2 of the Narnagoon Township strategy. The one that I really like is the upgrades to the play spaces. So at Ron Andrews and Ebony Drive, this consultation involves engagement with young people, schools, families, and I really love it. Kids get an opportunity to sort of vote on their preferred play spaces, what they want. It's a really good, successful engagement when we do these playground upgrades. So I love it. So we're doing pop-ups there. We've got signage on the site, obviously local neighbours and residents nearby, and obviously local primary schools. So I look forward to getting that feedback on these much-needed upgrades. Over the years, I've received some feedback around Rod Andrews Park in Pakenham, so it's great to see that getting renewed. Also, the footpath expansion program. Obviously, we're looking at doing footpath extensions in Pakenham, Jambrook, Avensley, and Emerald. So letters are going out to residents in those local areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Councillor Pomeroy.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Owen. Just further to the September Council meeting where we signed off the draft Narnagoon Township strategy, just noting that the consultation for this is likely due next week, and the community drop-in sessions will be available on our website as to whether they are planned. I think the really important one across the Shire is really the Cardinia Planning Scheme Review. And that is open from now until the 10th of December, which gives people plenty of time. And I do note that there was a public session in Officer on Friday, but there's one at the Emerald Hub coming up on Wednesday, followed by Bunyip the following Wednesday, and then Lang Lang on the 31st of October. So if computers aren't your jam in filling out the survey, make sure you pop down to those. And that survey has also been split into community members, but also professionals. So we get lots of calls around town planning meetings from people working in this space. So I really do encourage them to have their say on this as well, because your work will help inform this document. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Pomeroy. Would anyone else like to speak to this item? I see no one. I'll go back to you, Councillor Owen, to sum up.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councillors. This report also talks about previous engagement, and one we did recently was the Upper Beaconsfield Rec Reserve. And from that direct engagement with the community, amendments were made to the draft plan, and as part of that consultation and in relation to the reserve, we're getting an additional 2 safe pedestrian crossings, or the plan is to get one. Obviously, it needs to be funded. The addition of a new path connecting to the public toilet, updates to the drainage, removal of the proposed bus parking due to the need for further discussions between the reserve committee and school, and also broader wording for the equestrian recommendations. So they were direct changes as a result of that community engagement, which I think this is a great way of explaining to the community how this engagement works and how things get changed, things get amended, when council listens to the community through these processes. So it is a good report, and I move so. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll put the officer recommendation to 7.5.1 up for a vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried. 7.5.2, the resolutions report. The recommendation is that council note the report detailing implementation of council resolutions for the period July 1, 2025 to September 30, 2025. Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Thompson.
Move the author's recommendation.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Pomeroy. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. Really interesting report. Plenty of issues that have been here, maybe a touch too long, and we would have liked to see move a little bit quicker, and then some things that have been quite relevant to our community. A few of highlight that I'd like to point out is the Pakenham Precinct suburb naming with GNV, the latest update coming in September. We then have also the renaming of Officer District Park that's currently in progress. It would be fantastic to see some movement on that. Also, the last update for that was in September. Obviously, one that's quite the hot topic at the moment, as I've had a few emails over the past few weeks about the lighting upgrades within various parts of our municipalities and whatnot, and ongoing discussions and queries and dealings with AusNet. And then there's a few other notices of motions, but the last one being the Pakenham Cemetery rezoning, also, which was last updated in the September meeting, with the discussions going around the relevant agencies still sitting on our heels waiting for a response of what hopefully is just a straightforward process. But I'll leave that open to my fellow colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pomeroy, seconder.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. It is great to see massive progress on the majority of these, and I think this report does help keep us informed, but also show some accountability and transparency across the Shire. There's nothing that I really want to note in here, but I think it is a good addition of a report, and I look forward to a number of these coming off because they are pretty much resolved. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to this one? Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, this is a report that's only been around for a couple of years. It came about because there were so many things that were put forward that the council voted on that we just didn't basically hear back, or you had to have come to our briefing where it was all up to. This is a public document that goes out so the community can see. And if you look through, quite a lot of the questions that the community ask are actually answered inside this report on the notice of motions that were put forward, or the different projects that were put forward. One of those being the Mercury Vapour Street Lighting Upgrade Program, which was asked. Many questions have been asked, and if you look down to the answers that council put there, they're the answers that went back to the community. So anyway, it's a good read so people can find out where it's up to and if things are progressing or not. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Ross took my comments, but that's okay. But yeah, it is pleasing, particularly around notice of motions, because years ago, councillors were unsure if these notice of motions were enacted. We just hope they did and learn eventually that something happened. So it's really great to have this in, so we can close the loop. Already in this new council, we've had a number of notice of motions, and these outcomes and actions are being recorded through this report. And this is great. It gives councillors that certainty that things are being enacted by officers, and you see that the loop closed. So really important. So I'm happy with this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? I'll go back to you, Councillor Thompson, to sum up.
Nothing further to add. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So we'll put the officer recommendation to 7.5.2 up for a vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried. 7.5.3, the Capital Works Report. The recommendation is that Council 1 receives and notes the performance report for the financial year 25-26 capital plan to end of period 3, which is September 25. And 2, notes that a final payment against CT 000030 with Negri Contractors Vic Proprietary Limited for the construction of Tivendale Road / Station Street intersection was approved under delegation by CEO. Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Pomeroy.
I'd like to move the officer recommendation as noted.
Thank you. We note that. Is there a seconder? Councillor Roberts. Back to you, Councillor Pomeroy.
The Capital Works program is continuing to progress with 4.2 million spent to the end of September 2025. To date, 56 projects have been completed, which is 14% of the planned works. In September, the CEO approved a final payment against CT 000030 with Negri Contractors for the construction of the Tivendale Road Station Street intersection. Construction on the project was completed in financial year 24-25, but final payment was subject to negotiation regarding unapproved contract variations. This has now all been finalised with this report, and this increase is within the delegated CEO threshold and was therefore approved by the CEO. Some of the projects that I'm really looking forward to seeing come to an end or come to fruition really and be open for the community is the Cannibal Creek Community Centre at Garfield North. And I've been out there recently and there's been some incredible progress made. The Narnagoon Rec Reserve lighting, the lights are up and running. We just need to remove a few lights now that football is finished for the season. And I did drop out to Coralline Rec Reserve the other day to see how their modular build's coming along as well. So some great progress from the team across the first quarter of the year.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts.
Through you, Mayor, I did want to note a couple of the carry forwards from the 2024-25 year that are getting to completion. One of those is actually the transformation of Council's website, which is really due for a refit, and the initial designs for that are on track to be completed this month. The booking system for our facilities is also being updated, and the works on the Pakenham pool, outdoor pool, are also progressing. So it's good to see these projects getting dealt with. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Would anyone else like to speak to this one? I see you, Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Mayor. Great to see the Upper Beaconsfield Rec Reserve Pavilion has got a permit. Council has issued the permit. We had challenges with the state government, Crown Land and so forth, but it's great to see that the permit has been issued. And that was the reason why this is a carryover item in this report. But thank you, officers, for approving that. Councillor Roberts did talk about the booking and ticketing system, the upgrade there. I think this is a really important piece of work that councillors have been sort of, seeking improvements in this space. We've got a number of community buildings. We want to make it easier for the community to book these horrible spaces and make it easier. And also one way to track usage. So, through our council budget discussions each year, are the fees and charges correct? Are they at level? Can they be cheaper if we do that and there's more use? So I really want to get through this booking system, get really good intel about what facility is being used, what percentage of time it's being used, and are we getting the mix right? So I look forward to getting those results in once this booking system is fully implemented and the community is using it to book spaces. But thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to this report? No, I might just quickly say then that so much of council meetings are spent looking back, and that's because we're obviously reading reports that have been prepared in advance to judge our performance and judge the performance of our officers and plans and things like that. So in this report, I just want to pick out Pakenham Revitalisation. You can see a few different stages there. And just to say that I'm very, very much looking forward to the sod turn on Friday. Don't know how much of a sod turn it's going to be given it's concrete. So it might have to be a jackhammer turn. But yeah, very exciting that we're finally here. Isn't that right, Councillor Roberts? So yeah, so on Friday will be the sod turn, and in the next meeting there will be a bit more progress report on that. All right, anyone else to speak? If not, we'll go to Councillor Pomeroy to sum up.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing further.
Thank you. All right, let's put the officer recommendation, Councillor Ross. Sorry, you're welcome to. That's all right. Oh, do you want? We have plenty of time. Okay. Well, here we go. You ready? The officer recommendation for 7.5.3. All those in favour? Yes. Declare that carried. Excellent work. We're a well-oiled machine. All right. That concludes ordinary business. Let's go into councillor reports. Who's going to lead us off here? Councillor Roberts is.
I'll keep it snappy. Thank you, Mayor. I was delighted to attend the 100th birthday of Pakenham Scouts Sunday last. It was a really great day. There were fantastic displays in the little wooden scout hall of all the years of scouting in Pakenham, the 100 years. Scouting has been didn't start on that site, but has been near the centre of Pakenham for 100 years. They had a special ceremony opening a time capsule, which wasn't 100 years old, but was sealed in 1987. And they had a few special moments with some of the lady who actually had put the stuff in the time capsule was sitting in my row, and she was like, as things were pulled out, she'd be was mentioning why they were put in there. It was quite a little insight she was giving just because I happened to randomly sit next to her. So it was pretty cool. And everyone had a nice cake, and all the scouts were out on this wooden ropes course that had been rigged up by the leaders. So it was some more senior members of the community who've been involved with Scouts for a very long time were along as well to share their stories. So it was pretty special. I also was out and about in my ward at the Pakenham Grassland Reserve on Webster Way with the Grassy Plains Network and the Cardinia Environmental Coalition. Adrian from the Grassy Plains Network he lives on the other side of Melbourne, came over and worked with the CEC to put on the tour with support from Lisa and Ben in Council's Natural Reserve team. Only 0.1% of original coverage of damp sands grassland remains in the country, in Australia, and this 10-hectare site is one of the largest pieces of this type of grassland that is left, so it's critically important, and our officers do their best to look after this technically challenging site, which is bordered by houses in suburbia. We saw many of the sun orchids and ready to flower, and other plants that I had to learn about because I don't know a lot about the plants there. But there's actually 56 different recorded species that have been found on the site, and a number of these are quite rare. So that was really great. I attended the Cardinia Community Foundation's business lunch.
Sorry, Councillor Roberts, that's 3 minutes.
That's my time.
Yep.
And that was good too. Thank you.
Who's next? Councillor Pomeroy.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to point out a recent funeral of local identity, Elva Hamill. So Elva was massive in the community, but she was also playing tennis well into her 90s. So that means that there were generations of kids that not only did she train, but taught quite a few tricks to. So it was really beautiful to attend her funeral. She was 99 and 9 months. And there were so many awards and community involvement certificates on display, including some from Cardinia Shire. So absolute condolences to her family and friends. But the rest of the month has pretty much been about volunteers, celebrations, and some really powerful events. So Mary Knowles' 75th anniversary was last weekend, and they put on a full weekend of events to cater for everyone, which was great to see. Nanagoon Heritage Festival on Saturday was also a brilliant opportunity to find out a bit more about our local heritage groups and what they're doing, and some great displays on the floods of the swamp. And hopefully we don't see Kuwirup ever underwater again like that. I would like to point out the Good Choices Awards that we all attended as councillors. Incredible work that our leaders are doing in the community to help youth thrive. And I think this is incredibly important. Some other highlights of the month were Nanagoon netball change rooms opened, and I can confirm they do have hot water, and they are super impressive. So to the team that led that project, but also the builders, very, very impressive, that project. So plenty of other things. Trythall Fire Brigade had their annual dinner, but they're probably the key highlights. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Who else would like to speak? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, a couple of highlights from probably the past month for myself. 17th of September, we had National Citizenship Day. So Wednesday night, we had a special ceremony to welcome, once again, I think over 100 new citizens into our Shire, which is always super exciting and super wonderful just to see so many friendly faces and cheers and woohoos and traditional dress and a mix of personalities coming into our Shire. So I believe there's one this Saturday as well, where we get to celebrate that again. I'd like to also highlight and congratulate all young people in our Shire, especially ones that were nominated for our Good Choices Awards that was earlier in the month. But I reckon the personal highlight, maybe just because it was a bit different, or maybe because I'm a bit artsy, for me this month was the inaugural Battle of the Bands for the schools in Cardinia. So massive congratulations to the kids and the teachers who from Kuwirup Secondary, Pakenham Secondary and Officers Secondary, who were able to get up 12 awesome performances throughout the night. Myself, the Mayor, and we had a special adjudicator with us, had the very, very tricky job of it, having to judge and separate 12 items out, but I was just stoked to see something like that, young people getting up there, passionate, performing, celebrating the arts, and obviously in the backyard of Toomuc Ward, the Cultural Centre was just wonderful. And probably just a public service announcement, and really, really want to encourage anyone listening or anyone in the gallery this evening to have a good think about the upcoming Australia Day Awards, because I believe nominations are currently open. So if there's anyone you think, they may have nominated in the past, they may be not sure if they should be nominated or whatnot, put them forward again, get them out there, recognise them, because even if they don't necessarily win, they should be recognised and certainly deserve to be within our Shire for the awesome work they do to support our community and help us thrive. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Potter.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually have a personal one this time. I've put it on my Facebook. You will have seen it if you follow me, but it's my brother spent weeks in intensive care fighting meningococcal and he survived, but my daughter's friend Levi, her classmate and friend, didn't get that chance. He was just 16 and his family is now living every parent's worst nightmare. We're told that Victoria doesn't need to add meningococcal B vaccine because there's a fewer cases here, but behind every number is a child, a family, a lifetime of love and memories that should not have been cut short. And it's not about statistics, it's about saving lives. It's very meaningful. Every child deserves protection. Every family deserves a chance to never know that pain. A heartfelt thank you to the Pakenham Gazette for getting behind the cause and for helping share Levi's story. It's on my Facebook site, which is just pretty simple to go to. Facebook.com Cardinia SJP is my site, and there's a change.org petition that you can sign. It's make the meningococcal B strain free, just like meningococcal ACWY vaccine on change.org. There's already over 18,000 signees, so come and put your name towards it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Potter. And just by way of an update, I got an email from a young resident named Mason asking me to sign that petition. So on the back of that, I've written to the Health Minister to ask for a formal response in terms of that. I appreciate it's not council business, but every now and then something like that really significant happens. So when I get a response, I'll share that with you. Who else would like to provide a councillor report? Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Councillor Potter, for your comments. I totally support them. We also had some two funerals over the last month. Bob Taylor, he was a stalwart of Upper Beak, with Scouts Victoria, Cricket Victoria, strong advocate for a new pavilion at Upper Beak. So he had a big funeral at the Cultural Centre. So we acknowledge the passing of Bob Taylor. I'm hopeful that the new pavilion might honour him. We're working through that. Also, Robbie McGregor. Old Pakenham knows Robbie McGregor very well. He had his funeral. He was an amazing man. And it was just a beautiful funeral. He was, I think, Australia's or Victoria's longest serving paper boy. 56 years of delivering the Pakenham Gazette and the Herald Sun. Just amazing listening to the stories, whether it's the news agent, the travel agent, emergency services. Robbie was a very special person. I remember when I was working at Pakenham Police Station, Robbie would just walk in, deliver our milk and Gazette. He sort of owned the place, sort of thing, and answer the phone, and that was a Pakenham Police, and he did that at the ambulance as well and the fire brigade. And it was just a beautiful service, and his family really thanked the Pakenham community because they said, the village helped look after Robbie, and Robbie did so much for our community, so that was good. I just want to acknowledge. I attended the Casey Cardinia Heritage Festival at Narnagoon. That was fantastic. Thanks to all those heritage groups involved in that. Just a big plug for our Access and Inclusion Committee and our officers in that space. We recently released a Good Access is Good Business Guide, and it's really promoting improving access, because when you improve access, you improve your business. More people can access your business. So well done to the committee and council officers in relation to that. We've also done a communications board to help, whether it's council, whether it's other services, to help people with the language sort of barriers to communicate with council. And finally, I attended the launch of a local book by Penny Harris Jennings, When the Army Came to Pakenham. It's the story of the Salvation Army home in Army Settlement Road that served many people of need from over across 100 years. So really good history. It's a great book. Thanks to Penny for writing it. I look forward to having the time to read it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to highlight three different things. I must say, I went to the inaugural School Battle of the Bands event last Wednesday. I must say the Mayor and Councillor Thompson did an amazing job. We had one other lady who was there as the judge. They took quite a while, so they really did consider the people who got up to perform. They did a wonderful job, the schools, considering it was the first time. They had to present 4 items, I think it was. was it 4 items each? And one of the schools, Cooey-Rupp, had 3 separate sort of genre of music that they put up. So you had totally different sort of music. Some of them put up, 4 different items, but they actually had 4 totally different items. They finished up winning the best school on the night. I think there was a cash award and a huge trophy given out to them. So hopefully that'll be promoted in future years. And it was a really huge success. I know the youth team put in a lot of work to help make that happen. So that was wonderful. I went to the Cooey-Rupp Mini Festival on Wednesday the 1st, and that was a school holiday program that our youth team put together. They invested, they did have some karaoke there for some of the schools to come along. I'm pretty sure there was over 100 people joined up for the skateboarding. The youth team spent most of their money on bringing someone along to educate people how to use a skateboard or scooters on the skate ramps down there. And it was amazing that the guy that they employed to come along was actually a judge at the Olympic Games on behalf of Australia in skateboarding. There were people there who were 16 or 17 who you just knew had never ever got on a skateboard ever before. There were kids that were about 2-year-old that don't have far to fall. They were on skateboards as well, or scooters. It was really, really well attended. The men's shed down there attended. I think the Rotary attended down there too, and the Lions. They did an absolutely wonderful job. They gave out free sausages and bread for everybody who attended. And fortunately, and the best thing of all was the weather held off. It team rained the night before. It team rained later in the afternoon. For the small period of time, it didn't rain and it was dry. So that was excellent. And the last thing I'd like to report is I attend as a delegate the Safer Communities Partnership. And for those who don't know what that is, it's Cardinia Shire Council. We have VicPol, the Vic Police turn up. We have many agencies that deal with community wellbeing and social housing and homelessness who attend the meeting, during which time they make sure all their observations are let to be known. Everybody voices what they're seeing in the community. And I must say what makes it real is the Vic Police bring the statistics that are real to those meetings. And they let us know what's fiction and what's real and what's really happening out in the community. So anyway, that's an ongoing thing. We have that every month, so every second month. So people who don't think council are connected to all these agencies, we are, and we're in touch with them to find out what we can do to help them with their issues. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Would anyone else like to report anything? No, that's okay. All right, let's go to number 10, notices of motion. There is one notice of motion for consideration. Councillor Roberts, would you please present your notice of motion?
I, Councillor Liz Roberts, hereby give notice of my intention to read the following notice of motion. That Council writes to the Honourable Ros Spence, Minister for Carers and Volunteers, to express Council support for Neighbourhood House Victoria's advocacy appeal to the State Government for more support for staff and the sector overall through the following: requesting funding for neighbourhood houses. The Neighbourhood House Coordination Program increases by 25% to ensure our community is provided with essential support and connection. B, an additional 25 houses receive ongoing funding who currently do not. And C, in principle support regarding the development of a fund for the establishment of 5 neighbourhood houses per year over 4 years in growth areas subject to Council's review of its neighbourhood house policy. 2, notes the importance of the 8 neighbourhood houses operating in Cardinia Shire to the social and community fabric of the Shire, and thank the staff and volunteers who run them.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Owen. All right, Councillor Roberts, over to you.
Neighbourhood houses are at the forefront of service provision, playing a positive role in the community development of our Shire. We have 8 neighbourhood houses, community centres, which receive funding under the State Government Neighbourhood House Coordination Program. Neighbourhood Houses Victoria are currently campaigning across Victoria for more sustainable funding support. The Keep Our Doors Open campaign is highlighting how the funding for neighbourhood house staffing has fallen relative to costs. In other councils across the state, 25 houses are operating with no ongoing funding, and there is a need for new houses in growth areas. I was approached by Audra Fenton, the CEO of Living and Learning Inc. Skills and Wellbeing Centre in Pakenham. It's one of the two neighbourhood houses in my ward. The other is Outlook Community Centre, asking if council could support the campaign by writing to Minister Spence in support of the key points I just read. As council's neighbourhood house policy is in review, the third point is written in principle. It's support for this letter that I'm seeking from you this evening, fellow councillors. Neighbourhood houses deliver enormous social and economic value, but with the program rate lower, 20% lower than a decade ago, opening hours have dropped to the lowest level in 10 years. Originally, 80% of the coordination program funds would go to wages, with the rest to running costs. This is no longer the case. In 2024-25, communities lost 230 million in benefit when activity funds were diverted to basic operating costs. 46%, so almost half neighbourhood houses, ran at a loss in the last 2 years. Some are now fundraising to cover admin costs, as the full program funds have to go into wages. Neighbours house staff help those who are vulnerable, often in confronting circumstances, and deserve to have the support they might need to cope with this in difficult times. They currently do not have access to an employee assistance program to support them. The increase of 25% in the program funding is needed. What value do neighbourhood houses bring into our community? Living and Learning Pakenham, as an example, it had an operating income of $916,000 in 2024. The activities across the centre created a return value of just under $7 million. That is $7.60 of community value for every $1 of income, just under $60 for every $1 from the Neighbourhood House Coordination Program, which is the program I'm talking about tonight, equates to over $1,620 of value for every hour the neighbourhood house is in use. But as funding has eroded, it's impacted on the hours at this particular centre. A little over 12 months ago, a decision was made to close on Fridays due to cost pressures, and that day of operations has not been reactivated. Living and Learning Pakenham provides emergency relief in the form of food, groceries and personal care items. Adult community education programs are run from the centre. They also have smaller community groups, and the centre is home to many cultural groups. The Cardinia Men's Shed, the Women's Friendship Cafe, programs for families needing support with partner McKillop Family Services, an award-nominated multicultural women's program and playgroup, and it's also home to a model railway club. And this is just a fraction of the variety of what happens at this neighbourhood house. Down the road at Outlook Community Centre, they provide a range of social groups for seniors, adult education and tech courses. They're hiring rooms to support groups, the latest two being a men's prostate health support group and a women in their 40s friendship group. Just a small taste of what is on offer. Outlook has a strong record of supporting those with disability, and for decades have ensured a high level inclusion support for the Pakenham community at their centre. Councillors, you would know the magic that happens in your local neighbourhood house. This letter of support is something simple we can do to back their work.
Thank you. Councillor Owen.
Thanks, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Roberts. This is a great notice of motion and something I totally support. Thank you to all our 8 neighbourhood houses across Cardinia. In Beacon Hills, we're lucky to have the Beaconsfield Neighbourhood Centre and also the Upper Beaconsfield house as well. Some facts about neighbourhood houses. A recent participant survey held in November 2024 by Neighbourhood Houses Victoria, which have been just released. So the results have just been released, and they highlight the value of the sector. There were 28,800 responses collated, and the data showed that participating in an activity at a neighbourhood house had positive effects for most respondents. 98% improved physical well-being, 100% improved emotional well-being, 98% improved social connections, 85% improved overall well-being outside the neighbourhood house, 67 stronger support networks, 67%. 74% of stronger sense of belonging to the community. They are remarkable results, and that just shows the impact neighbourhood houses have on our community and supporting residents and community members. that really highlights how important it is. And so I commend this notice of motion. It's one way we can convey to the state government they need to step up and support neighbourhood houses. And it's also one way that our local neighbourhood houses can understand and be reassured that Council Cardinia is supporting them. There is a Keep Our Doors Open campaign, as you discussed, Councillor Roberts. It's a postcard type campaign. So I encourage people to grab a postcard, send it into the Minister. Thank you, Councillor Roberts. You can also drop them in at neighbourhood houses as well. They're compiling them and they'll forward them to the Minister. So definitely I'll be filling out one of those. But yeah, I commend the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Ross?
I think you got the right minister. Minister Ros Spence was a councillor of the Hume City Council. She started in 2008 when I did, and I know her really well. So she is a grassroots person who's worked on councils. She comes from Craigieburn, so that was an outer area as well, which would have had neighbourhood houses, which would have benefited so much because they really weren't part of the suburbs of Melbourne until the suburbs of Melbourne joined them. So she's a really good person to have a chat to, and I'm sure we might be able to get you a meeting with Ros. I'll see what we can do.
All right. Are there any other speakers? Do you want to sum up, Councillor Roberts?
Yeah. Thank you to those who've spoken for the motion. Neighbourhood houses are a unique organisation in that they provide a service which caters for people throughout their lifespan. Overmore, neighbourhood houses provide an informal network for people who may otherwise be isolated and may assist in the delivery of other local initiatives depending on the particular community's needs. They place great emphasis on social equality, addressing educational, social and health needs. And as a councillor, I acknowledge the important role they play in strengthening communities. They are run by not-for-profit volunteer boards and many are homed in a council facility. In supporting this notice of motion, you are supporting Neighbourhood House Victoria's efforts to ensure our 8 neighbourhood houses are sustainable into the future. You're also acknowledging the caring work that happens there every day, that they can be open. Please help keep the doors open.
Thank you. All right. So we'll put Councillor Roberts' notice of motion 1119 up for a vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried. All right. We're going to urgent of business, and there's none listed in the agenda, but I do have one item of urgent business, given it has just recently happened and it arises from the reprehensible behaviour that we saw in this chamber earlier. So I'm going to move an item of urgent business. I move that Council 1 notes that Mr. William Ronald was observed to breach sections 3.43 and 3.44 of the governance rules regarding behaviour of visitors at the council meeting on the 20th of October 2025. And 2, that as a first offence, resolved to ban Mr. William Ronald from council meetings for a period of 3 months in accordance with section 3.46.2 of the governance rules. I so move. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Samantha Jane Potter. Thank you, Councillor Potter. So we'll table that. I don't have anything further to add. I think everyone here in this room, being councillors, council staff and those in the gallery, saw it, heard it, and know what I'm talking about. Over to you, Councillor Potter.
I second this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to this? I see no one else. I'm not going to provide anything in summing up. As I said, it's pretty self-explanatory. So I put this motion as an item of urgent business up for a vote. All those in favour? Declare that carried. We have no councillor questions. Mayoral Minute, I'll be very brief. Thanks for mentioning Robbie McGregor, and I know there's been a number of significant local celebrities, let's call them, funerals recently. But yeah, I did attend Robbie McGregor's funeral and that was quite touching. And I just want to say I thought the Gazette did a beautiful work on that. It's great to hear the story from Uncle Treloar. When I first moved to Pakenham as a 12-year-old, I asked where everyone got their hair cut and I went and saw this crazy old man called Uncle Graham Treloar, and he's still doing his thing. He's still cutting hair occasionally, and he cut Robbie's hair every day, I think, even up to the week he died. So good to hear some stories there, some local Pakenham history. In terms of actual council business, there's no town planning meeting in November. There is a statutory council meeting on the 24th of November to elect a mayor and deputy mayor. Everyone is welcome to do that. And despite it being a little bit late in the night, I did want to say welcome to James Collins in your first meeting as Cardinia Shire's new CEO. Very exciting. All right, let's leave it there. We've got no items of confidential business, so I think I'm happy to declare the meeting closed at 17 minutes past 10.